There we go. So we've got all right. I think we're live and we're good to go now. Welcome in everyone. Welcome back to my Libro files. I am Vexing Cat, and we are continuing where I left off on the story of Robin of Locksley. Oh, that is not where that is supposed to be. Gotta love the scuff. Okay, the pets, where do you go? You're supposed to go. Bear with me. You are supposed to be like here. Feel free to, I'll do another one here. No pats for vexing, only the book. It was good, yeah. Robin needed the head pats, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll test that again real quick. Da 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 da. There we go. All right, we'll lock that down. And we'll lock that down and it should work for future head pats. Testing pats, please ignore. Thank you, Mo. It should be good to go now if anyone wanted to use it again. Um, so we're returning to Robin Hood and his adventures, which thus far has been very fascinating because it is the story of Robin Fitzooth, which is before he became Robin of Locksley. Thank you for the head pat, Sagara. Um, I have been pretty fascinated. There was a couple of images from the previous session last week on Friday. I'll bring those in. Thanks, Debbie. Um, so we have this first painting. This is done by N.C. Wythe. He has an incredible name, and I can't recall what it is at this exact second. But N.C. Wythe did this painting, and this is Robin and his mother going to the Nottingham Fair to go stay with her brother, right? And this is where, just before they're accosted by Will o' the Green. So they are, she's on a jenny, which I learned is the term, or a jennet, which is the term for a lady donkey. We have the father, gosh, what was his name? The basically he's the clerk for their town back home. And then we've got the escorts, and then Robin is the one in the green cap in the background. And then after that, a little bit later on, Robbins visited the fair. He rescued his uncle. This gentleman here, this is Stuteley, who was a wandering, I wouldn't say minstrel, that's not the word, but basically he was doing like acrobatics and then a wrestling contest. And here Stuteley has actually entered into Robin's service, and they are standing outside the manor and wrestling, and you can see him. So sure enough, throw him prettily. Uh, Will Robin wrestles Will Stuteley. So Robin and Will at Gamewell, which is the manor, and the overseer that's in they're in his care. He's like, yeah, throw him. Do it prettily. You've got him fairly now. At this point, there's been discussions with his mother and his uncle about him inheriting um, the manor and the I guess it would be lordship, um, and becoming, nobility, which of course his father, who gave up the title and lands previously to become of Locksley, for the forester, he will not approve of that. So there's a little bit of extra context, which I think is really fascinating because in Robin Hood Men in Tights, the 1973 Disney Robin Hood, we don't see young Robin Hood. We don't ever get to know who he was or what he grew up to be. And I think this version from 1917 gives us additional context into how the boy became the man that became the hero and the savior of the proletariat, the hardworking working class, and returning their stolen funds and taxes back to them. So we are going to be starting on chapter 6 today. Yes, chapter 6. If you were not here last week, On Friday, I read chapters 1 through 5. So if you wanted to listen to those, to have a rest and fall asleep, then by all means, you should do so. Um, but yeah, it was kind of fascinating to dive into Howard Pyle, the original author who wrote it based off of Piers the Plowman, the poem that survived, the illuminated manuscript poetry. Um, get to see more of the work from N.C. Wythe, who was a phenomenal artist, and Howard Pyle, the original author from, I believe it was 1887. His work was like he did beautiful illustrations, and he did both the illustrations and the writing for his version of Robin Hood, which I'll probably cover next year, just to recap this and kind of compare the two. It's interesting because there's like a quite a substantial gap in time between the original and then this version that I'm reading, and I'd love to see them side by side and see what stories made it in and what stories are elaborated and which ones are completely and wholly different. Um, but we've got a little bit of reading to do today. So, like I said, I delved into a little bit of the history, which I found it very fascinating. I could find neither photos nor any additional personal info about the marriage, children, no children, parentage of Paul Creswick, which has also been known as James Paul Creswick. He had 37 novels, everything from like more serious, macabre stuff for adults to highly adventurous, um, somewhat nostalgic versions of children's books that really highlighted the beauty of England. So, I have rambled as I typically do, and I am going to get started now. But as a friendly reminder, hydrate, caffeinate if you need to, grab a snack, curl up with a good blanket, um, and enjoy the story. We're on to chapter 6 of Robin Hood and His Adventures. It was Warrenton who brought Master Joffrey his red-armored steed and lance after all. For context, Master Joffrey is the actual son of the Lord of Gamewell, but he was ostracized from by supporting Prince John, and so the king was going to execute him, but his father intervened, and unfortunately for his father, Master Joffrey escaped to Scotland and was on the run. But he is back at Gamewell at Nottingham, about to be in the tournament, and is keeping his identity a secret. So I figure that's an important additional context. For although Robin had had a voice in the choosing of the horse, and had helped the retainer to bind the shaft and interlace the cuirass and gyres riband, with riband such as the knight had ordered. Riband? Riband. I've seen that word, and I'm pretty sure I know what it means, but again, my memory's not what it used to be. Open in new tab. Let's share. So today's first word of the day is riband, or riband. Riband. Oh, this is one of those things. You read the word, you know what it means. Riband. So, almost like ribboned, like Ribboned. Ribboned. Okay. A decorative ribbon, which is what I imagined it to be, so that tracks. And interlace the cuirass and gyres with riband such as the knight had ordered. Black and red, by the way. Events stayed Robin from going out with these appurtenances of war to the lady's bower. Young Fitzooth, Robin, had been commanded to his mother's chamber so soon as he had come out from his converse with the squire. There befell an anxious interview, Mistress Fitzooth arguing for and against the squire's project in a breath. Oh, welcome in, Tiger Fate. Thanks for the lurk and the head pats. Uh, Contextually, everyone, Tiger Fae was the wonderful individual that helped me set up the head pats in the first place. They found the style of, I guess, art, the GIF, whatever you say it, and helped me set it up. So thank you, Tiger Fae, for all of your help. Young Fitzooth had been commanded to his mother's chamber so soon as he had come out from his converse with the squire. There befell an anxious interview, Mistress Fitzooth arguing for and against the squire's project in a breath. Robin was perplexed indeed. His ambition was fired by the squire's rosy pictures of what he, as a true Montfichet, must adhere to, without fail upon assuming the name and mantle of Gamewell. Most of all, Robin thought of his father. What would he counsel? Remain Fitzooth, and fight your own way in the world, boy. That is what he might say. In the end, Robin decided to sleep upon the matter. In any case, he would not consent to rob Joffrey of his inheritance, and he told old Gamewell this to his face. When I am gone, you can do what you will with the place, boy, the old man had answered. I have no son, but of course the fees and revenues will be yours. If for a whim you beggar yourself, I cannot stay you, but take it whilst I live. And wear Montfichet's shield in the days when my eyes can be rejoiced by so brave a sight, for you will never disgrace our scutcheon? Yeah, never disgrace our scutcheon, I warrant me. Perchance 'tis Joffrey's sole chance that you should wear the badge of Gamewell. I might choose to bequeath it elsewhere. The lad had checked him then. Never that, sir, he had said. Let Gamewell land be ruled forever by Gamewell's proper lord. I pray you to let me take counsel with my mother ere I answer you. It is what I would suggest myself. Go to her. Then had come the argument with his mother. Oop, clicked the wrong thing there. He went down to discuss. Then had come the argument with his mother, which had unsettled him more than before. He went down to discuss with Warrenton and Stuteley the means by which they best could bring the horse and arms to Joffrey, and it soon became evident that no one other than Warrenton dare attempt it, for fear of betraying the son to his still angry father. Are you sure, Warrenton, that you will perform this business right carefully? Robin asked, over and over again, until the old servant became vexed. I am part of the house of Montfichet, lording, snapped Warrenton at last, and it is not reasonable to think that I will turn against myself, as it were. Be sure that the horse and his trappings will be safely carried to my second master, Joffrey, at the hour given. Do you keep the squire employed in talk, and find excuse to lie in the little room next to his own, that you may hear him if he moves. So Robin and Will went back to the hall, and presently the squire's voice was heard through the arras, which covered the north entrance to the apartment. He was in deep converse with the clerk, and entered the hall holding him by the arm. For a moment Robin and Will were unperceived. Then the squire's bright, keen eyes discovered them. Now to bed, boy, cried he, dropping his detaining hold of the priest. 'Tis late, and I go myself within a short space. Dismiss your squire, Robin, and bid me good evening. I'm guessing even. and bid me good even. An early sleeper maketh a sound man. Did I see you with Warrenton, Robin Fitzooth? Put in the clerk curiously. I would fain have some talk with him on the matter of archery. I am told that his old man can draw as pretty a bow as any in Nottingham. As any in England, I would say, said Gamewell proudly. That is, in his day. Not now that age is upon Warrenton and his master, cunning in such matters is to seek. Yet he will teach you a few tricks when morning is come. Now kiss me, boy, and keep clear head and ready hand for the joustings and games tomorrow. Good night. God keep thee, Robin. And it occurs to me, I think I forgot to turn on the subtitles. I need to fix that. Ba 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 ba. Yes, we're good. Okay, back to it. He seemed to take it for granted that Robin would, in the end, consent to become of the house of Gamewell. Already Squire George looked upon him as heir to the hall and its acres, even as slowly did Warrenton, the shrewd and faithful man-at-arms. Truth to tell, the old servant did not regard the prospect with too kind an eye. Young Fitzooth embraced his uncle and bade him good night with real affection. There was no chance to alter his sleeping room to one nearer to Gamewell's chamber. When he had reached his chamber, again came the suspicion of Warrenton. Robin unfastened his tunic slowly and thoughtfully. Presently he crossed the floor of his room with decided step. Will, cried he, softly, and Stuteley, who had chosen his couch across the door of his young master's chamber, sprang up at once in answer. Do you hold yourself ready, Will? So soon as the house is asleep, we will go out together to the bower. There is a way down to the court from my window. Rest and be still until I warn you. Stuteley replied in a word to him, and blowing out his taper, Robin returned to his bed and flung himself upon it in patient expectation. The hours passed wearily by. I'm going to fix that. There we go. The hours passed wearily by, and movement could yet be heard about the hall. The open lattice gave entry to all sound from the court below, and from his window Robin could tell when the tapers in the hall were extinguished. Thrice he got up from his bed, and his stock of patience was slipping from him. At last all was quiet and black in the courtyard of Gamewell. Will, whispered Robin, opening his door as he spoke, are you ready? Stuteley nodded as he entered, on pointed toes. From the window, explained Robin, pushing him towards the lattice, a faint starry radiance illuminated the sky, and dim shadows held the angles and nooks of the court below them. A dense ivy clung to and covered the walls of the house. To one of light and agile body it gave fair footing. Robin had hands and feet in it in a moment, and cautiously, adroitly, came to the ground and signaled to Will Stuteley. The little ex-tumbler would have liked to have done tricks and shown his cleverness in the business, had there been time for it. As it was, Will dropped beside Robin lightly and easily and instantly. The two began to cross the court. It was necessary for them to climb over the stables at their left hand. Some dogs, hearing these quiet, stealthy footfalls, began to bay furiously, and both the youths stayed themselves until the beasts went grumbling and suspicious back to the kennels. Then they renewed their journey, and under the better light made a safe crossing of the stable roofs. They managed at length to win the gardens, and then raced across the open ground to gain the shelter of the yew trees bordering the bower. The pleasance in the soft moonlight looked ghostly enough, the statues and stone ornaments placed about the place. seemed to be instinct with life and to wave signals of horror to Will's starting eyes. At last, they approached the hut, and Robin saw in the bright moonlight that the door gaped black at them. There was no sign to betray either Warrenton or Joffrey to him. Robin entered the hut, dragging the unwilling esquire after him. A draught of chill air puffed in their faces as they entered, and a great owl blundered screamingly out into the night, the rush and noise of it startling Will to a cold ecstasy of terror. He would have plunged madly back to the hall had not Robin held firmly to him. Robin is made of sterner stuff, it seems. "Be not so foolish, friend," said Fitzooth crossly. His voice took his father's tone, as always happened when he was angered. They moved thereafter cautiously about the hut, groping before and about them to find something to show that Warrenton had fulfilled his mission. Presently Will stumbled and fell, pulling down Robin atop of him. Robin, putting out his hand to save himself, found that his fingers grasped nothing but air. They were upon the verge of an open trap in the far corner of the hut, and Stuteley had tripped over the edge of the reversed flap mouth of this pit. Fitzooth's hand rested at last upon the top rung of a ladder, and slowly the truth came to him. Quickly he drew himself up and whispered the discovery to the other. In an instant, then, their fears were dispelled. Will would have gone down first into the pit had not Robin stayed him. Stuteley was anxious that his young master should come to no harm, and where a danger appeared an earthly one, he was quite willing to bear the brunt of it. It was thought of the yellow woman which dried up all the courage of his small, wiry body. Robin carefully descended the ladder and found himself soon upon firm, rocky ground. Stuteley was by his side in a flash, and then they both began feeling about them to ascertain the shape and character of this vault. Hardly had they commenced when Robin's quick ears took warning. Sound of a quiet approach was plain. The darkness of the pit was suddenly illumined, obviously to illuminate. Illumine. That is a very, very cute cat having way too much fun destroying my chair. What are you doing? You don't have permission. That is not your chair. You're just gonna, all right. All right, I guess I have a cat for the rest of the stream. Well, we're shutting the door. Was shut. But you had other ideas, did you? All right. Vexing in a cat, yes. Ah, Aoife. My sweet, dark Irish princess of a cat. All right, so illumine. Illumined would be the word. Okay. All right. The darkness of the pit was suddenly illumined, and the lads found themselves suddenly faced by the beams of a lantern. Lathorn? Lanthorn? Another word. Jesus. Okay, so word. Word. We're going for 3. Lanthorn. Lanthorn. I've never seen that word either. Let's see. Archaic word for lantern. It is, I'm imagining exactly how I imagine it. Lanthorn. Lanthorn. So no th, but lanthorn. Interesting. Ah, isn't the etymology of language fascinating? All right, 1, 2, and that was the third for today. There we go. Lads face Lads found themselves suddenly faced by the beams of lanthorn, suspended at about a man's height in the air. From the blackness behind the light they heard a voice, Warrenton's. "Save me, masters, but you startled me rarely," cried he, waving the lanthorn before him to make sure that these were no ghosts in front of him. "I have but this minute left Master Montfichet, having carried his horse to him in safety. He rides into Nottingham tomorrow, unattended. I would that I might be squire to him." Did you indeed bring horse and arms down the ladder, Warrenton?" inquired Robin, with his suspicion still upon him. "Truly, such a horse would be worth much in Nottingham fair. I would dearly have loved to see so brave a business." "Nay, nay, lording," answered Warrenton with a half laugh. "See," and again he waved his light, showing them where the underground passage, for such as it was, sloped upward to another and larger trap now closed. "This way is one of the many secret ones about Gamewell, master, but do you keep the knowledge of it to yourselves, I beg, unless you would wish hurt to our future Lord of Gamewell." Warrenton spoke thus with significance, to show Robin that he was not to think Joffrey's claims to the estate would be passed by. Robin Fitzooth saw that his doubts of Warrenton had been unfair, and he became ashamed of himself for harboring them. "Give me your hand, Warrenton, and help me to climb these steps," said he openly. "'Tis dark for all your lamp, and I fain would feel friendly assistance such as you can give." His tones rang pleasantly on Warrenton's ears, and forthwith a good fellowship was heralded between them. This was to mean much to the young hero of Locksley in the time to come, for Warrenton's help and tuition were to make Robin Fitzooth something far better than the clever bowman he was already. This night, in a way, saw the beginning of Robin's fortunes and strange, adventurous after-life. The old servant told him quietly as they crept back to Gamewell that this passageway led from the hut in the pleasance to Sherwood, and that Joffrey for the time was hiding with the outlaws in the forest. Our master is to be recognized by us as the Scarlet Knight at Nottingham Fair, should one ask of us, lording," Warrenton told him. "He implores us to be discreet as the grave in this matter, for in sooth his life is in the hollow of our hands." The old servant spoke no more. In silence he led them back into Gamewell by the private door through the stables, by which he had himself emerged. They regained their apartment, apparently without disturbing the household of Gamewell. Only did one pair of eyes and ears look and listen for them, and observe both their exit and return. It was the clerk of Copeman Hurst's door that stood ajar, his busy mind that employed itself in speculation as to the cause and meaning of this midnight adventure. All right, we are between chapters, so as a friendly reminder, between chapters, I like to make sure everyone is taking care of themselves. I haven't been drinking very much water during this chapter, so I'm going to do that right now. So please hydrate, caffeinate, snack, do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable and enjoy the story. And now my cat is scratching at the door, so I'm going to let her out. I want in, I want out, I want in. It's like you're a cat or something. You're a cute cat, though. Yes, for all that you have a fluffy butt. A fluffy fat cat. Yes. All right, out you go. Be gone. All right. I too need to consider buying a new chair, but they're so hard to find good ones up here. Yesterday, I was enjoying cherry plums. hybrid cherry plums. I gotta say, that combination of plum sweet and cherry tart together make a delicious, absolutely delicious snack. All right, we're on to chapter 7. And let's see. For some reason, it looks like I'm not. No, it's reactive. It's just been weird. Thanks for the head pat, Stevie. I feel like it's not as reactive as I need it to be. Ba 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 da 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 ba. Chapter chapter 7. No, I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's more reactive. Geoffrey Montfichet's reason for wishing to be known as the Scarlet Knight was no idle whimsy, as the others had guessed. Crowned Walker. Oh, reading. Yes, hello. I am indeed reading. If you haven't caught my you've caught my content before, I think. If memory serves. You've been here before. But this is the first time you're saying hello. So, hello. To John's rebellion against his father, Henry of England, the younger Montfichet had given himself body and soul. The prince had shown him kindness, and now that the rebellion had failed, Geoffrey felt it incumbent upon him to remain with the beaten side and endeavor to recover the advantage lost to them. To this end, he now journeyed through the Midlands in many disguises, trying to stir up the outlaws and robbers of the forest to take up arms with John, under a promise that the prince, if successful, would grant them amnesty and a goodly share of the spoils sure to fall to them. A spy was to attend at Nottingham Fair to know how masters A spy was to attend at Nottingham Fair to know how matters had progressed with the outlaws of Sherwood, but since it was too dangerous to attempt an open meeting, Geoffrey had arranged a simple code of signalling by color. Did he appear as a knight unknown and disinherited, bound on his arms and steed with red trappings, the spy eyeing him from beside the Sheriff of Nottingham would know that Will o' the Green was to be trusted, and would promptly bear the joyful news to his royal master. Had sad black been the note, John's man would have guessed that friends were still to seek about Nottingham. Thus we know that Master Will had more reasons than one for appearing as a wizard at Nottingham Fair. He had gone here chiefly to bear a scroll to the prince's emissary, and to declare fealty to John, but the affair of the tumblers and Robin's discovery of him had warned Master Will not to stay over long in the town, so Geoffrey had to depend upon his plan of appearing as the Scarlet Knight. The morning broke dull and threatening over Gamewell. Robin and his esquire slept late, but no one offered to disturb their slumbers. The monk knew full well that there was good cause for his pupil's fatigue, and had set himself to discover the true meaning of it. "Boy," said he to Robin, "I pray that you do not think upon Nottingham today." "Boy! Oh, boy!" "There will be a storm and much rain. The mud in the meadows of Nottingham will surely spoil the bravery of the fair, and show us too plainly how trumpery and vain a matter it is." Trumpery. Amusing. Actually, what is that? I'm assuming. Let's see. Trumpery. We were learning every day. What is trumpery? Something without use or. Oh, I'm terrible. Trumpery. Noun. First definition. Something without use or value, rubbish, trash, worthless stuff. Second definition. Nonsense, twaddle. Third. Archaic, worthless finery. I think contextually, worthless finery is what is the context here. So trumped up aesthetics. So, like gold gilt on a otherwise wood carved, trophy or something like that. So make it look like it's fancy, but it's absolutely worthless. Ah, hmm. Okay. For that cause alone will we go, dear friend, retorted Robin. It will be a lesson to us. With you beside us to point the moral, much benefit shall accrue, for sure, father. Robin added, come with us now to the pleasance. There Warrenton is to show me how to notch arrows and pick a courtly bow. Courtly bow? I guess it must be bow. There Warrenton is to show me how to notch arrows and pick a courtly bow. I have no great wisdom in the game, boy. Yet readily will I go with you. The three of them went in search of Warrenton and found him with the captain of the foresters. Dame Fitzooth and the squire followed later to the pleasance, and there one and all tried conclusions. Robin soon found that Warrenton could teach him much, and he was too anxious to excel in the conduct of the bow to neglect his chance of learning the many secrets of it. Men shall talk of you, Fitzooth's own words to him always rang in his heart whenever he drew the cord and fitted ash across you. Warrenton took great pleasure in showing Robin some of the tricks in which he was so perfect, and explained them so well that ere an hour had gone the lad had learned and mastered them. Lording, said the old servant, watching him as he essayed successfully an exercise shown him but a few minutes before, Lording, I do not doubt that you will carry away with you today the sheriff's prize for the older bowmen of Nottingham. You have a keen eye for it, and your fingers seem comfortable upon the yew, which is the sign and mark of a good archer. Now, bear in mind this golden rule, that the feet are to be placed at true angles, with the line of the mark running, as it were, fairly through the heels, thus. And he took the position, fitted an arrow to his bow, and scarce looking towards the target, flew his shaft so straightly as to pierce the very centre of the bull. Try now to notch the arrow, said Warrenton, with pardonable pride. Robin shook his head and laughed. Ay, but you shall make him far better than that, lording, and I have the handling of you, cried Warrenton. Now take this bow and these arrows which I have chosen, and we will set forth for Nottingham. We have an hour's journey. On the way to Nottingham, Robin's mind was so full of all that had lately happened that he lagged behind the others, and at last found himself quite alone. This was where the road curved, through the last forest about Nottingham. Warrenton and Master Ford of the foresters were at a renewed discussion of longbow against crossbow. And Will Stutely had become so interested in the matter as to have poked his little horse between the others. Robin trotted his steed to come up with them, then suddenly spying a brooklet among the trees upon his left hand, found himself mightily athirst. Me too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He slipped from off the back of his gray jennet and tethered the beast by the roadside. The brook was fouled near the high road from the passing of heavy carts and wagons, so Robin pushed down it into the thicker wood. For context, if you're not aware, fouled river means that the debris and dust and dirt has been kicked up, so it's no longer running clear. So no longer potable. No drinky. Finding now the stream ran pure and limpid, Robin flung himself flat among the brackney and rushes, and dipped his face in the cool water. He drank heartily, and lay there for a while in lazy content, hid by the undergrowth and bracken. A whinnying from his jennet warned him at length that he must push on with speed if he intended to rejoin the others ere Nottingham Gate was reached. Robin turned himself about, preparatory to rising, then hastily shrank back into the shelter afforded by the ferns. Two men approached noiselessly through the forest. They carried bows and were clad in russet brown. Robin, in the brief glimpse, recognized two of Master Will's freebooting band. The outlaws walked side by side in earnest conversation. Their mutterings were at first unintelligible to Robin, but by hazard they paused close to where he lay hid. Young Fitzooth knew that he would have small chance with these fellows should they espy him. Said one, an evil-looking man with a dirty, grizzled beard. My friend Kitten would be cackling. Yes, all beards are dirty. Hmm. Our Will seems to me, friend Roger, to be of open heart towards this youngling. He has given him the key of the forest at first word, as if the place were free to all. Had you the knowledge of it so soon, Roger? Tell me, lad. He spoke sneeringly and with meaning. Robin strained his ears to distinguish the other's reply. Friend, said number two at last, and speaking in a smooth, milky sort of way. Milky? All right. Friend, I would rather counsel you to adopt a persuasive argument with the Scarlet Knight, should we chance on him. I would have no violence done, and it may be avoided, being a man opposed to lawlessness in heart, as you know, and it is my eternal misfortune which has brought me to this life. Tush! 'Tis for murder of an old man at York. I know your story, Roger. Seek not to impose upon me. Oof. This is another one of those moments where I just want to say this book includes some really antiquated language and turns of phrase I do not condone, do not use in modern day context, and think are quite awful. But contextually, that's how it's written, and I can't get past that. So, here we go. Awful. He was a Jew, dear friend, and did grievously provoke me. But we have a matter in hand. This man has doubtless been sent in to spy upon us. I have no belief in the faith of these Norman nobles. Further, he has upon his head a goodly sum of money, as I well know. Wherefore, if chance should yield him to our hands, it would seem right and proper that we should bind him. Ay, hard and fast, Roger, you have it. Bind him with a vow, Micah, but not with ropes and wickedness. Yet should your dagger inadvertently prick him, be sure that it will, Roger. Some inward voice warns me that it will. The other made a sign to the last speaker to speak more quietly. Robin cocked his ears in vain, but he had heard enough to show him that the shadow of a great evil was stalking behind his cousin, and without further thought decided that he must save him. This kid has definitely got a complex. The two villains stood together, a plaguey time perfecting their plans, and Robin dared scarcely breathe. Once, when he attempted to wriggle his way through the bracken, at the first sound of movement, both men had become utterly silent, showing that they had heard and waited to hear again. A squirrel friend, said the one called Roger at last, and Robin took heart again. However, knowing that presently they must espy his jennet tethered by the road, Robin became desperate. He writhed his body snake-like through the ferns until he came to the edge of the brook, then, covered by the noise of the falling water, essayed to creep up the course of the stream. The distance from the road could scarcely have been 200 ells, but it seemed to Robin more like to a league. He got his feet and legs wet and bemired, and cut his hands over the rocks about the brook. Yet he came nearer and nearer still to the roadway without having given alarm. Pardon. Robin saw at length the close turf which bordered the road, and spied his little grey horse. Forthwith he rose to his feet and made a bold dash for it. The jennet was untethered, and Robin upon its back in a flash. Then the lad heard the whiz of an arrow past him. He bent his head down close to the neck of his jennet, and whispered a word into its ear. The little mare, shaking herself suddenly to a gallop, understood, and now began a race between bow and beast. These outlaws were no common archers, for sure. Twice did their shafts skim narrowly by Robin and his flying steed. The third time a sudden pricking told the youth that he was struck in the back. He had no time for thought of pain. Everything depended on the beast under him. He pressed his legs softly but firmly against her streaming sides. She was more swift in the end than the cruel arrows. Robin saw the countryside flashing by him through the cloud of dust, saw that Nottingham Gate was reached, that a party
Gemma
with
just followed.
surprised faces. Oh my goodness, welcome in, is that Gemma? Jime? Heme? How would you like me to say that? Jim? Is it just Jim? You should be able to write. I took down the restriction I had it at 10 minutes, but you should be able to say Jim. Just call it Jim. Okay, I will. Okay, Jim. Welcome in, Jim, and thanks for the follow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was that large paragraph at the end there. Oop. She was more swift in the end than the cruel arrows. Robin saw the countryside flashing by him through a cloud of dust, saw that Nottingham Gate was reached, that a party with surprised faces watched his furious approach. The little mare swayed and rolled as she went, and Robin came to the ground with the outlaw's arrow still in him. He was conscious that someone ran to him and lifted him tenderly. He perceived dimly, through circling blackness, the anxious face of Stuteley. "Are you hurt, dear master?" he seemed to see, rather than hear him say. Then Stuteley, Nottingham, and reason fled swiftly together, and the night and the day became as night. As a reminder, between chapters, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever you need to be comfortable, and AO is for Albion Online. It is nice to meet you too, Jean. If you haven't been here before, my content is primarily classic literature and poetry, and then occasionally gaming streams. So a little bit of variety, but I primarily focus on reading stories and focus heavily on classics. But I digress. I am rambling. Between chapters, I like to hydrate, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I had a heck of a struggle when reading The Jungle Book. That one, Rudyard Kipling, the way he wrote that whole book, it was just super long chapters. Like I was reading, he had short stories. I always imagined The Jungle Book was all the adventures of Mowgli, the young boy rescued by the wolf pack from Shere Khan the tiger. But honestly, only the first couple stories were, and then the rest of them had nothing to do with Mowgli in any capacity. Rikki Tikki Tavi, the White Seal, what was like Tuomi of the Elephants. There was a few of them. They were and had nothing to do with Mowgli or um, the wolves, Shere Khan, Kaa the snake, any of the other creatures that Mowgli interacted with. But we are currently reading Robin Hood and His Adventures. So thank you so much for checking me out and giving me a follow. I appreciate it. All right, we are on to chapter 8, and we'll read this one and kind of see where we are on the feed on when it's going to yell at me that I need to have a what's the word? Have an ad break. The necessary evil of an ad break. Let's see here. Chapter 8. When he recovered himself, Robin found them binding his shoulder. He smiled up at Warrenton to show that the hurt was little. Are we too late for the joustings, Will? He murmured, spying out Stuteley's face of concern. We are to bring back the golden arrow with us, which the sheriff has offered as prize to the best marksman, answered Warrenton, before the other could speak. Now you are to remember all that I have shown you, and shoot in confidence. Now come. The gates of Nottingham are opened, and your wound is neatly bandaged. Here is the arrow plucked from it. Keep it for a trophy. It is a pretty shaft, Warrenton, asked Robin carelessly, as the old servant thrust it into his quiver. It is one of Will's own, and that suffices. After Master Ford had briefly bidden them farewell, they left their beasts in charge of a fellow inside the gate, bidding him give the little grey jennet all care and attention. Here also Robin got himself washed and made tidy for the fair, and had some meat and drink to restore him. He found that it was to the long Norman cape he wore that he owed his life. The outlaw's arrow had been diverted by the flapping garment, and had only pricked him in the fleshy part of his shoulder. The cape was so ripped, however, as to become ridiculous in its rags, so Robin asked for the loan of a pair of shears, and with them trimmed the cape so ruthlessly in his haste as to make it become more like an old woman's hood. You have turned Saxon out of Norman very suddenly, master, laughed young Stuteley. It was a full 3 hours past noon ere they came to the fair. A great ring had been made in the centre of it, and huge wooden stands had been built about this circle. They were covered finely with cloth of red and gold, and many flags and banners were flying above the tops and about the stands. The blare and discord of trumpets rang out over the noise of the people. A great clamor of voices betokened the arrival of some great man at the front of the chief stand. The sheriff has arrived, cried Stuteley, who knew the ways of these affairs. Hear how the people do cheer him, for sure he must be a man well liked. These fellows will applaud anyone who has power and office, said Warrenton scornfully. Master Monceux is not beloved of them for all that. But hasten, or we shall be shut out. Already they are closing the gates. The clouds were heavy and grey, and a few large drops of rain began to patter down. Look to our bows, Warrenton, cried Robin in alarm. Be easy, lording. Your bow shall not be at fault if the prize does not fall to your hand. Follow me. They were now at the wicket, and Warrenton produced his authority. Gamewell's name was enough. They were ushered into a small box near by the sheriff's own, and there awaited events. Hello, Cairo. Look, it's an Englishman. How's it going, Cairo? First came bouts of single stick and quarter-staff, and Master Will was keen to take part in these contests. Warrenton counselled him to remain in the background, however. The folk are sure to recognize you, Malapert, said he, giving Stuteley his favourite name for him, and there will be an outcry. Let be, then, and attend to your master. It would be better, Will, I do think, said Robin. I have to find out cousin Geoffrey, and warn him against the two villains against 2 villains waiting for him without the town, and Robin gave them briefly the history of his adventure. I'm good, just ate some bread. Good choice. Great snack. Ere he had ended the story, the sheriff held up his baton as a sign that the jousting would begin. Then two knights rode into the ring through the hastily opened gates, heralded by their esquires, amid the noise of a shrill blast of defiance. They were clad in chainmail, bound on and about with white riband, and their armor was burnished in a manner most beautiful to behold. Their esquires threw down their gauntlets before the box of Master Monsieur, and challenged the world to a trial of strength in these the lists magnificent of Nottingham town. 2 black knights had ridden into the lists in answer to the challenge, and now all clamor was hushed. The sheriff's daughter, a pale, hard-faced girl with straw-colored hair and mincing ways, announced in inaudible voice the terms of the contest. The heralds repeated them afterwards in stentoration tones. Stentoration. Stentorian? The more you know. Stentorian. Oh, hey Gara, thank you for the gifted subs.
2 subscriptions to
Devi,
the
if you're
community.
still here, I hope you get to enjoy that. And Ned Lives, thank you for the sub. I hope you enjoy that. Higara, I really appreciate it. You are propping up my community wholeheartedly. Stentorian. Okay. Ba-ba-ba. The heralds repeated them afterwards in stentorian tones, and the rivals wheeled about, the white knights couching their lances from under the sheriff's box. The others prepared themselves at the wicket gate and waited for the signal. This was given, and the 4 rushed together with a shock like a thunderclap. These 4 knights gave good account of themselves. To black knights had been unhorsed. The black knights had been unhorsed. If memory serves, if you're unhorsed, they get to keep your horse. So, in tourneys, being unhorsed is very, very bad. Breaking your shield, breaking your lance, totally makes sense and it happens. But if you're unhorsed, oof, that's bad for you. Especially if you don't have additional horses. Once on their feet, they were eager to renew the fray and were soon again in readiness. At the second tilt, they rudely unhorsed the white knights by sheer strength of arm, and all the people shouted themselves hoarse. Horse, 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 horse. I'm amused. So the jousting went on, and after the white knights had eventually won the first round, yellow and red took their places. Robin eagerly scanned the latter, trying to discover which of the 2 might be Joffrey. A small, thin-faced man behind the sheriff was no less eager to discover Montfichet in this favorable apparel, and evidently had sharper eyes than had Robin in piercing disguise. This wizen-faced fellow leaned back with satisfied smile after one searching glance. Then, drawing out his tablets, he wrote on them and dispatched his man in haste to London town. Joffrey was unhorsed in the second tilting, and lay so long upon the ground that Robin's heart stood still. It was then discovered that this knight was unknown and had no esquire. Thus Robin knew him for his cousin. Attend him, Will, as you would yourself, cried Robin. As you would myself, cried Robin, anxiously, and see how See now to his hurt. He is but dazed, master. With his fall, it seems that these knights are armored so heavily that once down they cannot of themselves rise up again. Protect me from such war gear. I'd sooner have my own skin and be able to be spry in it. What say you, old Warrenton? Go to Malapert, get down to him, and be as active with your hands as you are with your tongue. Ayo? Ayo! Go to Malapert, get down to him, and be as active with your hands as you are with your tongue. Gotta clip that later. I go, see how I go. And Will turned somersault over him into the ring of the front of their box. Robin called angrily on him to behave, and the little tumbler ran then to his duties as servant to the unknown Scarlet Knight. Robin's eager eyes roved hither and thither about the gay scene. Opposite him was a small box near to the ground, wherein sat two people only. One was a grave-faced man of courtly mien and handsome apparel. The other seemed to be his child. And the other seemed to be his child. Towards one of these two persons Robin's glances forever wandered. The laughing blue eyes of the girl, the queer little toss of her head, which she gave in her unheard answers to her sober father, heartily pleased young Fitzooth, and in some way vaguely disturbed his memory. She was about 15 summers, and her hair was black as a winter's night, and curled all waywardly about her merry face. Blue were her eyes when the quick fever induced by the tilting rushed in her blood, blue as meadow violets. Then, when the excitement was past, they fell to a gray wonderment. Twice she encountered Robin's glances, and the second time her eyes shone blue as if ashamed, and the tint of her warm cheeks deepened. Demurely she turned away her face from him. Welcome in, Mara. You have some of the cutest emotes. Young Fitzooth turned to Warrenton. Can you tell me who these may be who sit alone in yon little box? He asked, and cautiously pointed them out to the old retainer. Warrenton was stupid, however, and would not see exactly where Robin would have him look. At last, as one making a discovery. Oh, 'tis Master Fitzwalter, you mean, lording? I, a right worthy honest gentleman, and warden of the city gates. Next of importance Nottingham town is he after Monsieur the sheriff, and a prettier man in all ways. Now, were he sheriff, Squire George of Gamewell would oftener be in Nottingham Castle than now, for we like not the sheriff. The maid with Master Fitzwalter is his only child. She has no mother, and he is both parents to her. I, a proper man. She is very beautiful, I think, said Robin, speaking his thoughts almost without knowing it. Yes, yes, a passable wench, but I have no faith in them, lording. They are all as the yellow one of Gamewell. They smile upon you that they may work their will, and evil comes of their favor, if not death. Now see. You are crabbed indeed, Warrenton, and I'll hear no more. Do you know her name? Fitzwalter, lording. Did I not say this was his child? Has she no other name? Persisted Robin patiently. Oh, let me see. 'Tis Judith, or Joan, or some such name. Mayhap 'tis Catherine. I do misremember it, lording, but 'tis surely of no account. The archery is now to begin, and here I would have you give heed. He recommenced his cautions. warnings and hints, being anxious that Robin should shine today for Gamewell's sake. Robin saw that the jousting was done, and that after all the red knights were conquerors. It fell to Joffrey to ride forward and accept the coveted laurel wreath. Dipping his lance, Joffrey caused his charger to bend its knees before the regal-looking box. And Master Montseau, after an inflated speech, placed the circlet of bays upon the end of Joffrey's lance. Then the unknown knight, for a brief instant, raised his visor. The lean-faced man near to the sheriff's right hand exchanged a quick glance of understanding with the knight. The sheriff nodded to give the knight to understand that he was satisfied. With closed visor, the Scarlet One then paced his steed slowly and in quiet dignity around the lists, followed dutifully by Stuteley, until they had returned to the Montseau box, again saluting gracefully. He extended his lance with the wreath still depending from it towards the sheriff, as it seemed. "Does he return the wreath, and wherefore?" asked Robin in puzzled voice. "To her to whom the wreath is yielded our sheriff will award the title of Beauty's Queen," explained Warrenton. "'Tis a foolish custom. Master Joffrey, in this matter of etiquette, knows that the trifle should go to young Mistress Montseau. Otherwise the sheriff would have him beaten, no doubt, or injured in some shameful way upon his departure from the lists." "So that is the rule of it, eh, Warrenton?" said Robin. "I would like to choose my own queen." "It matters not one jot or tittle to young Master Montfichet. See, the wreath has been duly bestowed, and the sheriff will announce his girl queen, and tell the knight a beauty in all royal Nottingham. There will be some further mummery when the golden arrow is won. Doubtless the winner will have to yield it up to Montseau's girl again, or a pretence that all is hers now she is queen. So shall my lord the sheriff keep his prize after all, and be able to offer it again next year." Robin checked the garrulous old man with a gesture. "Now give me my bow, Warrenton," commanded young Fitzooth, somewhat roughly. "And do you tell me how I am to enter myself in the lists." "Your esquire should announce you," returned the other respectfully. "See, here he comes." "The Red Knight would thank you, master, for your courtesies," said Stuteley, approaching Robin. "He will wait for us at Nottingham Gate, and prays that you will accept the chargers of the unhorsed knights from him. They are his by right of conquest, you know." "See? Right of conquest. He gets to keep the other guy's horses." That would be the Yellow Knight horses, I think, or the Gold Knights. "I will accept them and thank him for the gift," returned Robin briefly, guessing that this was the reply that Joffrey would desire him to make. Now tell the heralds that Robin of Locksley would enter for the sheriff's prize. Give no more of my name than that, Will," he added warningly in a lower voice. Stuteley vanished, and Robin turned again to the lists. The sheriff's daughter had already been crowned, and sat now in supercilious, oh, that's a word. Supercilious? Word. Supercilious. All right, I was saying it. Supercilious. It's super silly is what it is. Supercilious. Haughty, haughtily disdainful or contemptuous as a person or a facial expression. Scornful, arrogant. Yeah. She's just up there being a bee. That's what it amounts to being. Goodness. Where was I? Over here on this page. Mhm. Stuteley vanished, and Robin turned again to the lists. The sheriff's daughter had already been crowned, and sat now in supercilious state in the sheriff's own seat. Joffrey had gone, and Fitzwalter's box was empty. "I'll not shoot at all," said Robin suddenly. "Go, Warrenton, bring back Stuteley to me. I have changed my mind in the matter. Does your wound fret you, lording?" asked Warrenton solicitously. "Forgive me that I should have forgot." "Nay, 'tis not that at all. I have no wish to shoot. Fetch Will to me." It was too late. Stuteley had already given in Robin's name to the heralds, and signified that he would shoot first of all. He came into the box even as Warrenton went out for him. Half angrily, Robin took the bow from the retainer's hands and slung his quiver about him. He strode moodily across the lists to the spot where the other archers had already gathered. When they saw this youngling with his odd little cape preparing himself, they smiled and whispered together. Robin strung his bow and slipped an arrow across it. The crowd had become suddenly silent, and this nerved the lad to be himself once more. He forgot his momentary vexation and aimed carefully. His arrow flew surely to the target and struck it full in the middle. "A bull! A bull!" roared Warrenton and Stuteley together. Robin stepped back. "None so bad a shot, master," said the next archer to him in a quiet tone. "You have provided yourself now with a truer shaft, I ween." It was Will o' the Green, with stained face and horsehair beard. His eyes challenged Robin's in ironical defiance. As he moved to take his turn, his aim seemed to be made without skill or desire to better Robin's shot, yet his arrow found resting place side by side with the other. The mob cheered and applauded themselves hoarse, while the markers scored the points evenly to these first two archers. These two stood apart, silent amidst the din. Once Will seemed to be about to speak, then changed his mind. He glanced sidelong at young Stuteley and Warrenton, then hummed a ballad tune under his breath. The contest went on, and first round came to an end. Out of 23 rivals, 19 had scored bulls at this range. The markers gave the signal to the heralds, and these announced the results with loud flourishings. The target was taken down, and range increased. The range of the mark from the archers for the second round was fixed at 40 ells, the same distance as had chanced before between Robin and Master Will when in the greenwood together. The outlaw offered to shoot first, but the heralds requested him to keep it in the same order as the preceding round. Robin fitted his arrow quietly, and with some confidence to his bow, then sped it unerringly towards the target. "A bull! Another bull to Locksley!" cried out Warrenton in stentorian tones, loudly. And the fickle mob took up the cry, "Locksley! A Locksley!" with gusto. Will aimed with even more unconcern than before. His arrow took the center fairly and squarely, however, and was in reality a better shot than Robin's. The shafts were withdrawn, then the other contestants followed. This round brought down the number of competitors to 5. The markers carried back the target to a distance of 50 ells, and truly the painted circles upon it seemed to be now very small. Robin again took his hand, but with the same, but with, Robin again took his stand, but with some misgiving. The light was uncertain, and a little fitful wind frolicked across the range in a way very disturbing to a bowman's nerves. His eyes half anxiously addressed themselves to the box wherein he had spied Mistress Fitzwalter. His heart leaped. She had returned, and her strange gaze was fixed upon him. Robin drew his bow and flew his shaft. Unconsciously, he used the arrow plucked from his own shoulder by Warrenton. Again did he gain the center, amid the cries and jubilations of Stuteley and the old retainer. Now, Master Roughbeard, better than that, shouted Warrenton. The outlaw smiled scornfully, and made ready. He drew his bow with ease and a pretty grace, and made a little gesture of confidence as his agile fingers released the arrow. It leaped forth rushingly towards the target, and all eyes followed it in its flight. A loud uproar broke forth when the markers gave their score. An inner circle, and not a bull. Master Will made an angry signal of disbelief, and strode forward down the list to see for himself. It was true. The wind had influenced a pretty shot just to its undoing, and Will had to be content with the hope that the same mischance might come to Robin or any of the other bowmen before the round was ended. The outlaw wished especially to win, that he might have the satisfaction of vexing the sheriff of Nottingham. Will had intended to send back this prize. A golden arrow, from his stronghold of Sherwood, snapped into 20 pieces with the letter of truculent, truculent? Oh my lord. These words are killing me. Truculent. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I've seen this word before. Aggressively, hostile, belligerent, truculent. Truculent. Brutally harsh, vitriolic, also great word, vitriol. Scathing. Savagely brutal, barbarous, cruel. So he was just being a D. So, yeah. Snapped into 20 pieces with a letter of truculent defiance wrapped with the scraps. He wished to make it plain to Master Monsieur that the free archers of Sherwood were better men than any he might bring against them, and that they despised him very heartily. Now that he saw a likelihood of his being beaten, his heart grew hot within him. "Be not too sure of it, stripling," said he, as he returned to Robin's side. "Fortune may mar your next shot, as she has mine." "'Tis like enough, friend," answered Robin, smiling. "And yet I do hope that the arrow may be won by my hand. This is our second test, Master Will," he added in a low voice. "Forget it not. The freedom of the greenwood is the reward that I do seek even more than my lord the sheriff's golden arrow." The outlaw's anger went suddenly from him. "Then I do wish you Godspeed, youngling," he said brightly. "You have in truth beaten me right honestly, for mine was an ill-judged shot." With Will out of it, the contest came to an easy conclusion, and presently the sheriff's arrow was duly awarded to Robin of Locksley by the markers. The lad came forward shyly to receive the prize. "Master Monsieur thinks that you should shoot once more with the second archer," said someone to him, leaning from the sheriff's box. Looking up, Robin espied the lean-faced man smiling disagreeably down at him. "Yet, my lord, state the terms of this new contest, then," answered Robin, "and the reason for it." "'Tis said that you were over-favored by the wind and by the light." An angry answer was upon the lad's lips, but he checked himself and with slow dignity turned and went back to where the archers stood grouped together. Soon as he had made known to him that the difficulty which the sheriff had raised, Will of the Green became furious. "Locksley have none of this trumpery prize," cried he in loud anger. I do deny my right to any share in it, or to a fresh contest, nor will I shoot again. Let Monsieur vex his brain as he may with rules and conditions, they are not for Roughbeard or for you. We have our own notions of right and justice, and since the sheriff is loth, the sheriff is loth to part with the prize that he has offered, why yield it back to him, friend, and take the reward from me that you coupled with? that you coupled with it. Wild. Let's see. Other indignant protests were now heard from amongst the onlookers, and the sheriff saw that he had raised a storm indeed. Locksley, Robin Locksley, was shouted noisily round and about, and Warrenton and Stuteley busily fostered the tumult. Master Monsieur at last bade the heralds announce that Robin of Locksley had won the golden arrow, since the archer who had made nearest points at him did not desire nor seek a further trial. Were it necessary, lording, muttered old Warrenton, I would show you how to notch the arrow of the best archer here about. A merry trick, and one that I learned in Lancashire, where they have little left to learn of archery, for sure. Nay, put in Roughbeard loudly, the arrow is without need of further parleyings. I do admit myself beaten this day, though on another occasion we will, perchance, reverse our present positions. Hmm. Take or leave the arrow as you will, Locksley. For my part, I would love to prick Monsieur with it heartily. You talk wisely, friend, said Warrenton approvingly. And as for making a match with you, why, that will we, that we, that will we too. Oh my goodness. And as for making a match with you, why, that will we today. You ride with us to Gamewell, and there you shall have archery and to spare. Ay, and a welcome too, commenced Robin, then paused suddenly, remembering who Roughbeard really was. Montfichet of Gamewell, entertaining Will o' the Green. The outlaw merely laughed good-humouredly at the lad's confusion. Go take the sheriff's prize, and vex him in some way, if you can, in the accepting of it. Again Robin walked forward towards the Monsieur box, this time with flashing eyes and a resolve in his heart. Robin of Locksley, said the sheriff, scarce looking at him, here is my golden arrow, which I have offered as a reward to the best bowman in this fair. You have been accorded the prize, and I do yield it to you with sincere pleasure. Take the bauble now from our daughter's hand, and use the arrow worthily. Worthily. To do what? To shoot something else? A golden arrow would just straight into the ground. Oh, I miss archery. That was a lot of fun, actually. One of those frequent summertime activities growing up. We did archery. I had experience with like a recurved bow, which I really loved the shot on. It's just really strong. And then also a compound bow. I've never drawn a straight bow before, or a short bow. Just the recurved, which is very common hunting bow here in Alaska, and then the compound bow, which again, very common hunting weapon. But I really liked the compound bow because it had a little laser sight on it, and it was like a wrist release with a little thumb activated switch, so I could draw it, and hold it there, and then it could hold a position a little bit longer. Because if you hold your position too long, you'll lose your shot. So weird inside fact. Vex and Cat used to do archery. The heralds blew a brazen blast, and the demoiselle Monsieur, with a thin smile, held out to Robin upon a silk cushion the little shining arrow which now was his. Bowing, and on one knee, Robin took up the glittering trophy. If I had one opportunity, Mom Spaghetti on my sweater already. Yeah. Surely 'tis a plaything more suited to a lady's hair than to an archer, murmured the lean-faced man, who stood close by. Catching Robin's eye, he made a significant sign, as who would say, "Here is the queen who should adorn it." Robin had that other notion in his mind, however, and saw that now the moment had arrived in which it should be put into execution. Somehow he contrived to bring himself before the small low box wherein, half startled, sat the maid Fitzwalter. "Lady," stammered the young archer, bowing to her, "do you please accept this little arrow which I have won? It is a pretty thing, but of small use to me. Maybe you could make some ornament with it." Then he could go no farther, but dumbly held it out to her. The girl, having seen that her father was not unwilling, stretched out and took the sheriff's arrow from Robin's shaking hands. "Thanks to you, Robin of the Hood," she said, with a roguish little toss of her dark curls. "I'll take the dart, and wear it in memory of Locksley and this day." Her eyes looked frankly into his for a brief instant, then were hid by her silky lashes. Oh man, he's smooth with it at such a young age. Robin, with bounding heart, walked proudly back to where old Warrenton stood, glowing, and the people thunderingly applauded the archer's choice. "Right well was it done, Locksley," roared the outlaw, near forgetting himself. "I love you for it," for he saw only that the sheriff had been slighted, and cries of "A Locksley" were renewed again and again. Master Monceux looked furiously at this archer who had taken the prize with only the briefest word of thanks to him, and would have spoken had not his daughter, with chilling gesture, forbidden it. She gave no outward symptom of the anger stirring within her. She wore her worthless but royal crown of bay, whilst the other toyed thoughtfully with the golden arrow, and wondered who the gallant giver of it might be. Robin, Warrenton, Stuteley, and Roughbeard rode towards the gate of Nottingham on the horses of the defeated knights. They had decided to stay no longer at the fair. The noisy play and mock joustings that were to follow the archery had no attraction for them. All right. We are at a really good spot for me to take a short break, go use the restroom before we read some more chapters. We are going to be going into chapter 9. I'm hoping to get through to chapter 12 today. We're about an hour and a half in. I think we can make it. If we don't get to chapter 12, we'll definitely finish chapter 11 at the very least. So, everyone, hold tight for a few minutes. I will be right back, and we'll go ahead and take a short break, use the restroom, and when I return, we will start chapter 9. So, as a friendly reminder, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch the ads, and to you lovely individuals that subscribed, thank you for continuing to support me and my library and my reading streams. I genuinely appreciate all of my Libro files. So, I will be back very shortly. Un momento. I don't know why it's that's so goofy. So the summer green shimmer I noticed doesn't work quite right. I'll need to dial that in. I'll write that down. Summer shimmer fix. All right. There's always something every stream, but I ramble. We are returning to chapter 9 of Robin Hood and his adventures. And I am actually kind of curious here. Let me open this image and zoom in a little bit. Oh man, I'm glad that they decided to upload this when they did. There's a bit of mold here. You can really see it. That's kind of in the shot in the middle there. I'm glad they uploaded it when they did, because mold will eat through books so quickly, which is why you don't want to keep them in a place that's damp. Conversely, the leather on the books needs to be a little bit hydrated, so lotioning them is kind of important on leather-bound books. But for the most part, though, books are should be kept away from moisture and relatively dry, which is why I currently have a bookshelf full of books and I have no aquariums in this space, because if I did, it would not be healthy for them. But I return to a lovely book and good company, and yeah, let's see here. Go back to boop boop boop, back to 100%. So we are reading chapter 10 of Robin and his adventures. After thwarting the sheriff of Nottingham and his daughter, this escort saved Geoffrey from the attack planned upon him by the two treacherous robbers. They spied him out and followed the small cavalcade throughout the journey, but at a respectful distance, uttering deep threats against the lad who had warned the knight of their evil intent. So, whilst making friends, Robin also made enemies, but none so bad as that cold-faced woman of Nottingham Castle. She had recognized in Robin of Locksley the youth who had come with old Montfichet on the first day of the fair. Near by Gamewell, Roughbeard called a halt. He had been strangely silent, being over doubtful. "Farewell, friends," said he, doffing his cap to them. "Here our roads do part, for I must go further through the forest." "I too have that direction before me, if so be that you are travelling westward," said Geoffrey to him, with well-assumed diffidence, and speaking through his casque. He had known the outlaw at once, but had forborne to show it, scarce dreaming that Robin also had pierced Will's disguise. Robin became busy in his thoughts when he saw his cousin and Roughbeard riding off together like this. That secret way from the hut which led into Sherwood, the two villains who had plotted against Geoffrey. Why, all was clear. Geoffrey now was with them of the forest, and had been seeking to influence Master Will. No doubt the red trappings upon which he had laid such stress were as a signal to someone. To whom? And to what end? Geoffrey had been cool towards Robin when warned of those scheming against him. "I can protect myself against such rabble, cousin," was all he would say, "but I would thank you for bidding your lad to me in the joustings. It was a matter I had overlooked, that one must have an esquire. I'll not forget the courtesy." That was all. He had shrunk back into himself again, and with closed visor had ridden silently beside him. Yet he was not ungrateful, and had begun to like Robin very honestly. Only Geoffrey Montfichet must be very sure of his man ere he would unbend to him. It was already nigh on dusk as Robin rode into the court of Gamewell, in dreaming abstraction. His thoughts had sprung back again from Joffrey to the blue-eyed maid, and in cloudlands he saw himself her knight. Wondrous and mighty would be the deeds that he should perform for her dear sake, did she bid him to them. Then he remembered Broadwold, and how he had sworn within himself to set his life to win that for his father's happiness. 1 second. Whew, pardon. Aye, but surely in the winning of Broadwold there might chance smaller prizes, which properly he might yield for a smile from this fair maid. Or again, might not he battle for the two together? Robin, Robin, he heard old Montfichet's voice calling from the shadow of the porch. Where are you, child? I did not espy you at the bridge. Come here, boy, and let me tell you something of sorrow.
Bramk just followed.
Oh my goodness. Welcome in. Brem MC. Welcome in. Welcome to my library. Come here, boy, and let me tell you something of sorrow. There has befallen a sad mischance to your father at Locksley. Sir, sir, cried poor Robin, waking suddenly, tell me not that he is dead. He sprang hastily from his grey steed and ran towards the squire. No, not that. Ah, but my heart forewarns me, he has been hurt by some beast. It is the season when the deer are wild. Asim Immortus. It is quite a nice library. It is full of classic literature. But you yourself also run your own library, and I'm not sure. I don't think I've given you a shout out before, but that being the case, I should do so now. For those of you not in the know, Asim also a variety streamer. Oh, I do. I do. From one librarian to another. I do. Asim is actually another librarian as well. I believe a magical library versus mine very, very like, salt of the earth. Earthly library, if you will. Here, let's check that out. I should pull a good. I think so too. All books are.
There we go. Okay. Hey everyone, thank you for coming by today. I really appreciate it. I know it's been a little touch and go a bit, but nice book. Oh, thank you. This is Paige. If you haven't met her yet, I'll just introduce you real quick. Paige is my living grimoire. She's sentient. She
A living grimoire. That's cool. Now that is an amazing asset to have for a librarian. Um, yes, the program that pulls these clips, I'm not entirely sure where it has these cached somewhere on the internet, but yeah, Asim, it's pulling old clips for everyone. It's not just you. She actually flies around your model. I've seen that now that I think about it. I've seen her fluttering around. So she's pretty cool. I really like her a lot. Aw, thank you, Bren. Um, you have a great reading voice, and if your library is half as nice, I may never leave. Um, thus far to date, I'm 51 episodes um, of stories, and I'm really bad about putting the content onto YouTube. I'm working on Restream.io to have them connected so that way I can just upload the lot, and then moving forward I won't have to record them at all because they'll just automatically be live streamed onto YouTube as well. So they'll be stored there in a beautiful cache of all of the stories from gosh, I've covered so many. I've got, so I did Peter Pan by James Matthew Barrie. read an assortment of poetry by William Blake, an assortment of poems and short stories by Lord George Gordon Byron. I read Pinocchio by Carlos Collodi. I read A Christmas Carol During the Holidays by Charles Dickens. Charles Seddon Evans, who did the original Cinderella, or at least a rework of it that the Grimm brothers, Jacob and Wilhelm, did. Now, I read an assortment of their fairy tales, which were wild. Um, Francis Hodgson Burnett, who did The Secret Garden. Ernest Theodore Amadeus Hoffman, who did The Nutcracker. Rudyard Kipling, I just covered. Oh yeah. Grimm's versions are fascinating in and of themselves because they actually went out into the world. Like they were what's the word? Gatherers of stories. So they would actually go out to England, to Ireland, to Finland, to Russia and Ukraine, all of these various countries, and gather the stories, the folklore, and then they brought them all together in an assortment of stories. Now, those short stories, some of which were really absurd, one of which was about Chanticleer, which, if you're not familiar, is a rooster, and his adventures with his hen. Um, they were like grouped up with a donkey, a fox, a cat. Um, I think there was a mouse involved, and like a what is it called? The rolling stone for making for crushing grain. Like there was a sentient one of those, and they just rolled into some old farmer's house and were like, "Hey, are you home?" And he went to open the door, and the stone fell over onto the door and crushed him. Just like, okay, um, what? So it's been a wild ride getting to read some of these stories. I love classic literature in the unique strangeness of the stories themselves versus like modern day stories are very polished and very pretty. The original Ding Dong Death, maybe. I don't know about Ding Dong Ditch. Um, yeah. So, but Chanticleer's like, all right, well, next story, and away they go. But yeah, I've covered quite a few different books at this point. I usually stick thematic based on the season. So I've done like since summer or in spring, I did The Secret Garden. I did, gosh, so what was it? Anne of Green Gables, The Secret Garden for the springtime. Just finished Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. I'm doing this one, which is Robin Hood. I think I'm still debating about what the next one will be because I have, another 300 some odd pages to think about it. So I gives myself a little bit of time. After that, going into the fall time, that's when I usually ramp up more the thriller classics, the horror classics. Last year, in October and November, I was covering Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I still need to cover Percy Shelley's poetry at some point, and I'll get around to it. But Mary Shelley, I covered Bram Stoker's Dracula. Those were some of the first ones, which I think to start with those was kind of a very bold thing to build up in myself to be able to do. And I think moving forward, I would feel much more confident reading those aloud to individuals. So I might revisit them again, not this October, but next year perhaps when I've further strengthened my stamina for reading. But yes, Asim is amazing. And I highly recommend their content. Their game, watching them game and their reactions to stuff has been really cool. And I met Asim through Almontes. And Almontes, of course, we've talked about Almontes before. Another amazing variety streamer, very knowledgeable. And I actually met Almontes through a mutual artist, Sensational, who did one of my models, which, here, give me a second. Which one is that? I actually don't have it. Oh, there it is. Sensational did this model, which is, of course, doesn't make sense for the book title there. But so this is my Sensational model. So they designed this one which is similar to the one that Almontes has, like the very distinctive style, which, if you haven't seen their work, I highly recommend. They make a very masculine man, um, and a very bold, Exhibit A, audacious woman, and they have a very interesting kind of feathery technique to their hair that's very distinctive. They were actually streaming earlier today. I should give them a shout out too. You guys might be able to see some of their work as well. Shout out. It's underscore Sen, I believe. I might be misspelling that. We'll see. Do 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 do. Boo do do do. Um. Let's find. Oh, it's with a Z, not an S. That's why. Okay, got it. Ha ha ha! I'll do it now. Should work. Do 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 do. They might not have any clips. I hadn't considered that. Oh well. Foolish me. But yes, if you have not seen their content, 10 of 10 would recommend. I wish that it actually had a clip, and I need to yell at him and be like, hey, do the thing. They're actually working on, at least on stream today, they were working on something for Almontes today, I think. But I've rambled. I've gotten too far into the weeds. But yes, Asim, thank you for checking me out and being here for the reading. Um, and to all of you other new Librophiles, Brem and gosh, there was another person not that long ago, but Brem, thank you for joining the library. Oh, Jeem. Jeem was the other new follower. Thank you. Let's see. Where are we? I get in the weeds and then I get lost. There we go. Got the book title on the book again. That's the only thing that I wish that I could do easily. Uh, to be fair, chat in general tends to be distracting, Asim. No worries. Um. Da, 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 doo, doo. Oh, okay, we're about midway through the second page. Master Fitzooth had been attacked by a great stag near by your home. That is all we know of it, child, and I give it to you plainly at once, that you may hear the worst. Your mother has already gone to him, with the clerk and a full 2 score of men, for the captain of the foresters has kindly joined forces with mine own fellows, so that no further harm may befall. I'll follow her, sir. Give me leave to go. 'Twere wiser to wait till morning, boy. What could you do now? Mayhap we fret ourselves too much as 'tis. But you shall go, with Warrenton and your esquire, when morning is here. Ay, and I will come too, and we will bring with us the most skilful leech in Nottingham. I have already sent a messenger to him an hour since, so soon as the dame had gone. Oh, that's fair, Brem. I like not my mother having been sent for, sir. That shows me that the hurt is deadly. To think that I was playing so foolishly at the moment when I might have been of use to him. So rudely ended Robin's dreaming. In the morning they set out for Locksley, the squire with the leech, and 6 mules bearing such delicacies as old Gamewell's generous mind could think upon. Warrenton headed a full 1 score of men for fear of the outlaws, and they took a litter with them to bring Master Fitzooth to Gamewell. The dame met them at the latch gate, which Robin knew so well. Her face was deathly pale, and her mouth quivered as she tried to frame a welcome to them. "Mother!" cried Robin, in anguished voice, running to her, and there was no need for further speech. In that one cry, and in the expression of her mute, answering face, the truth was told and understood. No use to fight for Broadwold now. Were it his 100 times over, Robin could never do that with it which he in all his boyhood had planned. Hugh Fitzooth, Ranger of the Forest of Locksley, was dead. Moment of silence for the Ranger. Yeah. Yep. F's in chat. F's in chat for Hugh Fitzooth, the Ranger of the Forest of Locksley. Yeah. Pour one out for the homies. Yeah. The good clerk of Copemanhurst, who had appeared from within the cottage, told the story of Fitzooth's, oh, that's a name. The story of Fitzooth's death. Fitzooth had been alone when the huge wild stag had attacked him, as near his death when discovered by two of his men. Was near his death when discovered by two of his men. He had regained consciousness only at the sound of his wife's voice, had kissed her with fainting breath, and having labored to send Robin a message of love and pride in him, had gradually faded in spirit until the dawn. It was an unhappy ending to a life soured by disappointment, yet somehow this man had managed to win a way into the hearts of many people. The few villagers of Locksley all had their tender word or humble tribute of affection to offer the dame and her sorrowing son, and thus much of the edge of their grief was blunted. Until the interment the priest stayed with them, and so did old Gamewell, who paid all the fees and expenses inevitable in the consequence of Fitzooth's decease. Afterward, the squire would have them go back to Gamewell with him, but Robin had determined to ask for his father's post. This bitter time made the lad into a man suddenly. It was the evening of the day when they had laid Fitzooth to rest in the little churchyard of Locksley that Montfichet returned again to talk of his plan of making Robin his heir. The old man argued reasonably and well, and Robin listened in silence until he was done. Then, very generously and indulgently have you talked with us, sir, said Robin, and sure thing it is that we owe you such debt as I can never hope to pay. Yet I cannot feel that 'twould be a man's part to live an idle life. Surely I should do something, sir, to win the right to wear your name. Moreover, I must not forget that there is another way. Nay, hear me, sir, thine own son, whose birthright I should be stealing away from him. Oh my goodness, Aku! Akudama! Welcome in, and we got Jules. Fantastic! Welcome in, guys. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Hello! For those of you not in the know, Aku, I met in Ronin's community. So, again, peripherally, I feel like Ronin is like a hub that everyone is somehow connected to. So, even I think Asim, your model is the same as or same artist as Ronin, I think too. Yeah, that's wild. Just wild. Welcome in, Aku. I'm reading Robin Hood and His Adventures, and unfortunately, yep, VTuber Sibs. You have the same mama, I think is what it's the same designer or the same artist designer, and then the same rigger is the father. I gets a little silly to me, but yeah, that's wild. Thank you so much for the raid. Let's give you a shout out here, cause Aku does some really cool gaming streams that I've enjoyed. Well, you're definitely in the right place, Aku. Hopefully you have some clips. Oh, good start.
Compliment.
Do you want steppies?
You want steppies, guys?
No, but I'm sure other people do.
You guys want steppies? There you go.
So
I'll
what
take some
is
free
this?
complimentary
I'm
stuff.
sure other
Okay.
people want steppies. Y'all enjoy. I'm
Fuck
going
yeah.
to.
Fuck yeah.
Enjoy, guys. You all
Oh,
deserve
yeah.
it.
Aku,
Oh, Ronan was in that stream too. Steppies. Well, I didn't know you swung that way, Aku, but fair enough. You do you, bud. Yes, Aku. Yeah, let's hope that Samurai Jack is not here as well. Steppies, eh? Yeah, the seam gets it. I mean, to each their own. Lots of fun today. Okay, where was I? It was a celebration stream, and you got to share your steppies with everyone. I'm sure they loved it. Yet I cannot feel that 'twould be a man's part to live an idle life. Surely I should do something, sir, to win the right to wear your name. Moreover, I must not forget that there is another. Nay, hear me, sir, thine own son, whose birthright I should be stealing away from him. Boy, interrupted old Gamewell on a sudden resolution, will you share Gamewell with me as Joffrey's brother then? If so be this way out of it will meet your objections, I'll sink my prejudice. Joffrey shall go go halves with you. That were the course nearer to my heart, sir, and yet not all that I would desire. I have no right to talk to you so openly, but the matter is, in a manner, forced upon me. It is agreed then, Robin. Robin, cried the squire eagerly, and so you will take your mother's olden name and become Montfichet of Gamewell. I would rather serve the king here for 1 year at least, said Robin, arguing still. You might think better on it, sir. Let me try my strength or weakness, and find out myself for myself. My father would have wished me to fight my own way in the world. The lad speaks soothingly. Yeah, the lad speaks soothingly, squire, said the clerk, interposing, and I would counsel you to agree to his notions. Moreover, he has not yet finished his studying with myself in the Latin tongue. Leave me young Stuteley in Warrenton, sir, and your blessing, and let me win bread for my mother and myself for 12 months from today. Then, if I may and you wish, I'll come humbly to you. Robin went over to him. And believe me always as being very grateful, sir. I would that I might not seem obstinate in this. Have it so, then, Robin. I'll bear your letter to Monsieur myself, and rally him about the arrow which you won. Will the sheriff appoint me, then? Asked Robin, a trifle disconcerted. He will advise the king in the matter. 'Tis but a form. The post of Ranger of Locksley is yours merely for the asking. Who can gainsay your right to it? Give me the letter, and I will be your messenger. I go tomorrow to Gamewell, and will journey to Nottingham the next day. Now, since I understand that this holy man would wish to see you alone, and I would like to talk with your mother, I'll leave you, boy. Count me always as friend, Robin Fitzooth Montfichet. He added the last word half inquiringly, half lovingly, and twinkled to the clerk to see how Robin might take it. But the lad made no reply beyond kissing the old man's fingers very respectfully and tenderly. And with a sigh, old George of Gamewell offered his arm to the dame, who had silently listened throughout the discussion. Left alone, the clerk approached Robin. Now, boy, what I have to say is soon told. Know then that I have learned of your adventures with the Scarlet Knight, and that he is in league with Will o' the Green. Further, I have had it whispered to me that he is none other than Joffrey of Montfichet. It matters not how this knowledge came to me. I do but seek to warn you to tread gently and warily in the days now before you. So far life has been kind to you, and surely there is no reason why you should not prosper very exceedingly. There is for you a good friend in Gamewell's squire, and one also at Copemanhurst, father. Assuredly, boy. But I am a poor anchorite, and one unable to help you save my friendly counsel. Take heed not to touch Montfichet too nearly in the matter of his son, added he warningly. He is a strange man, and will brook no meddling. I would not see Geoffrey wronged, father, not even by Robin of Locksley, said Robin vehemently. The clerk smiled at him. You may coax the squire as you will, boy, said he, twinkling, for I do think that one may achieve more that way than by any other. But be careful not to let him see that you would lead him, and above all, provoke him not. Montfichet is an obstinate man. His heart prompts him to forgive Geoffrey, and doubtless he could get the ban removed from off the young man's head. But the squire will not readily forego his oath. So now rest content that he will share Gamewell with Geoffrey and yourself, and do not let him know that once you did deceive him. Deceive him, father? Did you not go out secretly to meet the Scarlet Knight, boy? And do you not now hide from Gamewell that his son is in hiding with Will o' the Green? Be prudent, and tread no more in this path. Peace be with you, Robin Fitzooth, and discretion also. He bade Robin good night, and set out towards his lonely cell near St. Dunstan's shrine, leaving the other perplexed and distressed at his words. The first clouds on Robin's horizon were appearing. Dun dun dun. So we are on to chapter 10. So we're almost done through today. We've got about an hour's worth of content, I think, give or take. I made you some content. Da, 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 da. Oh man, now I'm gonna have that stuck in my head. Bo Burnham, also amazing content creator. If you haven't seen them by now, have you lived under a rock? Oh dear. Anyway, I'm on to chapter 10, and as a reminder between chapters, please hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever it is that you need to enjoy the story and relax and just settle in. So I am currently reading, for those of you new here and not not here before, I am Vexencat, and I am currently reading Paul Creswick's version of the 19 edition of Robin Hood. So if you're not familiar with my content, I primarily am a librarian. I read classic literature and poetry and occasionally play video games. Usually collaborative types of games like Valheim or what was the other one the other day? A little bit of Grounded, which great game. Little horrifying giant spiders. Not a fan. But if you need to take a break, Aku, it sounds like you're going to make yourself something to eat. Please do so. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And I appreciate all of you new streamers and followers and listeners for dropping by for my content. Let's see. Speaking of caffeinate, all right. And I'm glad, Asim, because Bo Burnham is awesome. Okay, let's see here. We're on to chapter 10. Squire George left the next morning. He bade Warrenton stay at Locksley and charged young Stuteley to let him know if the dame or his master should want for aught. Then, having pressed some money upon his sister to meet their necessities, he bade them affectionate farewell. He took Robin's letter to Monceux, and added his own request to it, never doubting that so ordinary a matter as this would be long a-doing. The rangership of Locksley Woods was Robin's by every right, for the house and garden had been given to Hugh Fitzooth in perpetuity by the king, so at least they all had understood. Master Monceux, Lord Sheriff of Nottingham, took the letters and read them with a thin smile, then bore them to his daughter's chamber and laid them before her. Truly, the enemies of our king are not lacking in audacity, sneered Master Monceux, when Mistress Monceux had mastered the scrolls. What will you do? Asked she curiously. This is the young archer who won my arrow, remarked the sheriff, Robin Fitzooth of Locksley. Observe that his father has been killed by one of the king's deer. Like as not, whilst he was attempting to snare it, his son asks now for the post, this son, who shoots with a peacocked arrow to win my prize. Say you so? Then this boy is of the outlaws of Sherwood. Her thin lips parted over her white teeth in an evil doubt, as she asked her father, "What do you know that the arrow was winged? How do you know that the arrow was winged with a peacock's feather? Did you see it yourself?" "John Ford brought it to me." "Ford is a very untrustworthy knave. I would that some other of the foresters had told you." The sheriff was vexed at this. "I have no hesitation in the matter, child, but give heed, for now I must either agree to this recommendation of my Lord Montfichet, or refuse it because I have already appointed some other to the place. Can you not suggest a man to me? Let it be one distasteful both to Montfichet and to this boastful youth," said the Demoiselle Monsieur eagerly. "Send Ford, or one of the scullions from our kitchen, that they may know our contempt for them, and bid the young archer to us here. He should be whipped and put in the stocks," she added vindictively. "Will you reply to those scrolls then, child?" said the sheriff, glad to be relieved of a task which he did not relish. "Let it be Ford. He is captain of the foresters hereabouts, and has been staying at Gamewell. I hear that young Locksley is not over fond of him. But be discreet in your scrivening, and say only that which is necessary, child." "I will bring the letters when they are penned, and will read them to you," said his daughter. In due course, then, came the sheriff's reply to Robin's request. It was couched in arrogant terms, and bade the youth report himself within 10 days at Nottingham Castle, in order that the question of his appointment to a post in the king's foresters might be weighed and considered. As for the rangership of Locksley, that had already been given to one Master John Ford, who would take up the duties so soon as Robin and Mistress Fitzooth could arrange to render him the house at Locksley and all it contained. To this end, the sheriff's messenger was empowered to take stock and inventory of all furniture and belongings, and to make note of all things broken or in disrepair, since those would have to be counted against them when they left the place. Robin, not knowing the worst indignities that were to befall did he come to Nottingham, for reply flung the letter into the messenger's face. "Go, take back this answer to your master," flamed the lad. "Locksley is my mother's and my own, and not the sheriff of Nottingham's. Further, tell him that I will administer Locksley Woods, and the men shall obey me even as they did my father, and this is all that I say in answer to your insolent lord." "Take this also, fellow," cried Stuteley heroically, "that my master squire will very instantly do battle on his behalf with all enemies at quarterstaff, single-stick, or at wrestling with the hands." "Be sure that you will need practice in all your tricks, friend," snarled the messenger wrathfully. "Master Monsieur will send you enough of pupils and to spare, and I will be glad to have a bout with you. Now, if you sicken for it," said Will valiantly, but Robin bade him be still. The messenger went back to Nottingham, and Robin continued to go about the duties of a ranger. On the 5th day after the man's visit, however, one of the Locksley foresters refused to obey young Fitzooth, saying that he had no right to command him. "I have this right, and you shall obey me," cried Robin, and he bade Warrenton and Stuteley to seize the man and deprive him of his long bow and quiver. Nor would he suffer the forester to become repossessed of them until he had humbly asked pardon. Thereafter, seeing that this youth had a man's determination, the men remained loyal to him. Within 10 days came Master Ford himself, at the head of 10 fellows, armed with such powers of forcible entry as the sheriff could grant. Robin received the forester civilly, but told him plainly that Locksley was his, and that he would keep it to his death. Master Forth smiled, very superior to these brave words. Death, Master Robin, is a thing a long way off from us both, I do conceive, said he. Therefore is there small valiance in your prating so lightly of it. Prating? This matter is not one between ourselves, howbeit for the rangership has come to me through no seeking of mine own. The quarrel, if there be one, is between yourself and Master Monsieur, and in reason you should let me into possession here, and take your anger into Nottingham. I speak to the sheriff in that I speak to you, John Ford, retorted the lad, and you have had your answer. You shall be my captain. Oh, what? How did we get here? Oh no! It skipped ahead! Oh no! Oh, biscuits. Where were we? Nobody knows. Yeah, it was 90 something. We were definitely in this. Chapter 10. Yes, we were here in 101. I clicked something. Don't click the things! Oh yeah, I must have clicked over here in the gray bar, and then it went to that page. Whoopsies! I did a whoopsie. Okay. All right. So, I speak to the sheriff in that I speak to you, John Ford, retorted the lad, and you have had your answer. Take back your men and yourself. Be content with the captaincy of the foresters of Sherwood. This part of the forest will be administered under the king's pleasure by me. Let's see. Brem, if you want something similar to Bo, check out the Tim Minchin's Alone Together. Yep, ideally the full live show. But if you don't have over an hour of free time, the song that named the show is also amazing. Tim Minchin's Alone Together. Okay, write that down. Tim. The name sounds familiar. I think I might have seen something from them before. Alone Together. Apart Together. Oh. Apart. Okay. Something. Something was tickling my brain just now. My goodness. I don't know. It'll come back. All right. Let's see. What if I could show you the king's dismissal of your father? Snarled the other. If you could show it to me, you would, answered Robin calmly. Nevertheless, I will show it to you, insolent, cried Master Ford, losing his temper. In Nottingham we can play at other games than those you saw at the fair, Robin o' the Hood. He went on furiously, and giving Robin the name out of desire to prick him. Asim, now I remember. So, you asked, didn't Robin literally come back from war before this point? Like he doesn't know death. At this point, Robin is a young lad. We had guessed. He was supposed to go into Gamewell, his uncle's service, as a squire, a young boy. we originally thought between 9 and 10 years of age, but he might have been as old as like 13 if he's just now starting to think about girls, um, or, people being attractive. Yes, this is pre-Crusade, Robin. And I think, because you remember in Robin of Locksley, Men in Tights, um, in that, and also in the Robin Hood in the 1973 movie, he has come back from the Crusades. What I think is happening in this book is what's prior to the Crusades, and I think the Sheriff of Nottingham is what sends him to the Crusades, and that's why he hates him so. So Molsu is the reason he went off to war, I think. I'm guessing. I don't know if it's spoilers or not because I don't know what happens in this book. But I think he is the cause of Robin um, being sent away and probably something terrible happening to his mother. Who knows? I mean, the sheriff's daughter wanted to throw him in stocks and have him whipped. I didn't know that they could do that either to someone who hasn't done anything wrong, but he's pumped up on himself, and unfortunately, the Squire Gamewell, might not have any control over the sheriff. But all right, I have rambled a fray again, as is usually the case. Let's see. We are at. There we go. In Nottingham we can play at other games than those you saw at the fair, Robin o' the Hood, he went on furiously, and giving Robin this name out of desire to prick him. To young Robin the epithet recalled a sudden vision of the maid Fitzwalter, and her queer little toss of her curls as she christened him. Ford must have been near to have overheard it. So was there double insult in his words? Robin looked him full in the face, and then turned contemptuously from him. "Play all the games you know, friend," said he, and walked into the house. The forester bit his lip in vexation. He scarce knew how to act. The sheriff had told him to take forcible possession of the house, but this might only be done now after a sanguinary encounter. 10 out of 10 phrase. Sanguinary encounter. For Warrenton, the squire of Gamewell's man, was there, and had eyed him malevolently, and talk with the Locksley foresters had shown them to be now ranged on Robin's side. After waiting for 3 hours, Master Ford set about a return into Nottingham, meaning to ask for permission to bring back the Sherwood foresters with him to Locksley. In his return, he was met by Will o' the Green and his men near Copmanhurst, was beaten and robbed of all he had, and sent back in ignominious fashion into Nottingham town, he and all the 10 men that the sheriff had sent with him. Master Ford made a fine story of this for the greedy ears of Mistress Monceux. She had always disliked the maid Fitzwalter, and had now seen a chance to injure her through Robin. Since he had given this girl the arrow which he had denied to her, the sheriff's daughter, there could be no doubt that strong friendship at the least existed between them, so that any blow at Robin must recoil upon Mistress Fitzwalter. Demoiselle Monceux therefore credited largely Master Ford's story. "Go to the hall, and there await my father, Master Ford," said Mistress Monceux. "At last. I will speak again with him when he has returned from Gamewell. He is there now on your behalf, in a way," she added meaningly. Monceux, knowing that Montfichet would require an explanation of the refusal to install Robin in his father's place, had set himself out to be beforehand with the squire. At once he had endeavoured to satisfy old Gamewell by telling him the story of the peacocked arrow. "Readily can I unfold that mystery to you," said Montfichet. "Our Robin was pursued by 2 of the outlaws when on the way to your tourney. 'Tis like enough that he picked up one of their arrows." "When they were in chase of him?" chase of him? Asked the sheriff with ready reply. Well, that is true, and yet stay. I do mind that I do mind me that the clerk of Copmanhurst did speak of some shooting match, in which Robin was forced to employ himself with Will o' the Green on the day that they journeyed here from Locksley. Then it was that Robin must have become owner of the peacocked arrow. The thing is quite plain to me. The clerk himself has been suspected of colleaguing with these robbers of the forest, friend Gamewell, whispered the sheriff, leaning forward towards the squire, and they do say that Will was at our tourney, was none other, indeed, than the very rough-beard from whom young Robin so cleverly did snatch my arrow of gold. Nay, nay, I think the evidence points very strongly against Fitzooth, yet since he is your nephew, I have forborne to press my charge against him. I'll believe no harm of Robin, said the squire decisively. Still, you will see there is reason in my refusal of his request, smiled Monsieur, and old Gamewell had to agree, although unwillingly. So were the clouds upon Robin's horizon gathering apace. He gravely continued in his duties at Locksley, filling up his leisure with long and frequent practice in archery with Warrenton. A month went by, and he had heard no more of Master Ford nor of the sheriff, and so engrossed did Robin become in his present life and the necessity of making a living for them all, that Master Monsieur, his summons, and his appointment of Ford were forgotten. He killed such of the deer as his father had, under the king's charter, for their own sustenance, and gathered the fruits from the garden at Locksley. There were cows to be milked, and sheep to be sheared. The men worked for him without question. There had been no further rebellion since Warrenton and Stuteley had so promptly checked the first sign of it. The squire had sent twice to them such presents as he knew they would accept, and he made no mention of Master Monsieur. Only one matter troubled Robin. Soon would come round the time when the emoluments, yep, when the emoluments of the rangership would be due, and then Robin would have to face the sheriff and make him pay the moneys. Having stifled any objections Montfichet might have had in his refusal to recognize Robin as ranger, the sheriff was quite content to bide his time, knowing that once in Nottingham, Robin would be entirely in his power. Unforeseen events, however, upset these schemes and hastened matters, even while Robin was perfecting himself in the use of longbow under Warrenton, and in the art of wrestling with little lithe Stuteley. The lean-faced man whom he saw at the tourney returned suddenly to Nottingham from London, bearing news to the sheriff that he was to prepare the town at once for a visit from the young Prince John. Dog Barkos. Master Simeon Carfax, to give the lean-faced one his full style, bade them arrange for a great tourney to be held in Sherwood itself. Certes, Prince John may well be king over us in the end, murmured the sheriff to himself, and he dismissed all thought of Robin and his defiance. The sheriff had some suspicion that Master Carfax had more to do with this sudden visit of the erstwhile rebellious prince than that pinch-nosed gentleman would allow. Further, he saw with some misgiving that between Carfax and his own daughter there was an understanding, and he decided to speak firmly with her, but as she was still vexed with him for not having dealt with young Fitzooth as promptly as she had designed, the sheriff thought it wise to wait his opportunity. Man, she's just got him wrapped all the way around her finger in entirety. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, Robin passed his days equably. I'm brain. Hmm. 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 Marked by lack of variation or change, but that doesn't tell me. Equably. Thank you. Equably. The more you know. But marked by lack of variation or change, uniform, or equable, distance apart. Marked by lack of noticeable, unpleasant, or extreme variation or inequality. Ec. Ec. Equably. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay. Meanwhile, Robin passed his days equably. And now he could notch Warrenton's shaft at 100 paces, a feat difficult in the extreme. The old retainer took huge delight in training the lad. I do hear of brave business in archery to be done in Sherwood Forest, he said, and I would have you enter there in the lists, and bear away the prince's bag of gold, even as you did the sheriff's arrow. Tell me of this, Warrenton, cried Robin, interested at once. Where did you learn this item? 'Twas told to me a week agone by the friar of Copemanhurst, a right worthy, pious gentleman, gabbled Warrenton. It seems that the young prince is already tired of London ways and the court of his father, the king, and has agreed to come here to us at Nottingham so that he may be more free. He brings with him many of the fine ladies of the court, and full 100 score of followers. And they do tell me that some of the barons are with him, Master Fitzurse to wit. Howbeit 'tis no matter of ours, we have but to remember that he has offered a purse of 100 pieces to the best bowman in Nottingham town. That purse should be yours, lording. Robin smiled at the old man's emphatic speech. When is this prize to be offered, Warrenton, and what other marvels are there to be? The man at arms commenced afresh. There is to be a tourney held in Sherwood Forest. Ay, but the archery. I have told you that the prince offers a fine prize. Know also that he brings with him Hubert, the most renowned of all archers, so that he deems the prize already won. The prince puts 100 gold pieces into the purse, and Hubert pockets it in advance. Is he a fair bowman, this Hubert? I know but one archer better than he, lording, yourself. And I have seen the finest archery in the world. You talk heedlessly, Warrenton, said Robin, rebuking him, yet secretly he was flattered by this sincere belief in him. I'll go with you to Nottingham, and Stuteley shall stay here on guard, said Robin, but Stuteley begged most earnestly that he should be allowed to go also, so that Robin came nigh to giving up the plan altogether, for he would not consent to leave the dame unprotected. Gotta take care of your mum. In the end, Warrenton himself, with fine self-sacrifice, offered to remain at Locksley. It will be wisest that you should go unattended after all, lording, concluded Warrenton. Enter the lists unknown, unannounced, as though you were some forester. Master Monsieur means no good to you, and surely he will be there. So be circumspect, and forget not the things I have taught you. Beat Hubert if you can, but be not overcome if you should fail. He is a very pretty bowman and experienced. Dun dun dun. Okay, so I have 30 minutes. I can definitely do at least one more chapter, and it depends on how long it is. I was hoping to get to 12 or through 12, but I think through 11's not bad. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is still 6 chapters. That's nothing to shake a stick at. That's not bad. All right. As a reminder to everyone, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever you need to make sure that you're able to enjoy the stream. And if you're not familiar with my work, hi, I'm Vexing Cat. I read classic literature and poetry, and I am reading currently Robin Hood and His Adventures by Paul Creswick. So, and I am actually surprised. I think there's going to be one more picture in today's work, because there was a number of paintings through this whole book by N.C. Wythe, I believe, and I really like their work. They've done some really beautiful things. And insider knowledge, the original author of Robin Hood, which was an American author, Howard Pyle, who was also an illustrator, his um, apprentice was N.C. Wythe. So the artist that trained under Howard Pyle became the artist that did the paintings in this book. So it's kind of like carrying forward. He's like, I already read this. I already know how these stories go, so I'm going to do the art for them. It makes sense. So it's kind of a weird small world situation. Okay. I have rambled yet again, as is par for the course. So let's see. We are on chapter 11 of Robin and His Adventures. Profiting by a lesson learned from Will o' the Green, Robin stained his face and bade Stutely to do the same ere starting to the royal tourney. The morning was overcast and doubtful when the two lads set forth. They had put on foresters' clothes of green cloth, with long tunics and green trunk hose. Their hands and faces were brown as walnut juice could make them, and whilst Robin carried only his best longbow and a good quiver of arrows, young Will had loaded himself with quarterstaff, axe, and pike, all very difficult to carry. Robin bade him leave one or the other of these weapons, and reluctantly the pike was returned to Warrenton. Then merrily they started away through the forest, and came at noon to the glade where Robin had first met Will o' the Green. Even while Robin wondered whether Will or his men might again demand toll of him, Master Will himself suddenly appeared, and without a word placed his bow across their path. "Greetings to you, Will," said Robin blithely. "Is it toll of us that you desire?" "Are you dumb, friend?" added Stutely impudently, as the outlaw made no immediate reply. Will smiled then. "So old Warrenton has persuaded you to seek the prince's gold, youngling," said he at last. Without waiting an answer, he stepped back and withdrew his bow. "Pass then, Locksley, and good fortune attend you." He went on. "We may meet again ere the day be done, but it is not sure." "You will not try for the purse, Will?" cried Robin, as if surprised. "I have no use for it," answered Will, with some egotism. "Nay, fear not. Our third trial is yet to come. I did but stay you to speak of your cousin." He paused and glanced toward Stutely. "I am deaf and dumb as you were, friend, a minute agone," spoke the little esquire. "Your cousin, Geoffrey of Montfichet, has gone to France," continued Will, speaking freely so soon as Robin had nodded in confirmation of Stutely's discretion. "Like as not, Master Geoffrey has not talked with you as to his business with us in this green wood?" "I know nothing beyond that he did bind my cousin's armor about with red ribbon," replied Robin uneasily. He remembered the clerk's warning, and a presentiment of coming evil pricked him. "But I am right glad that Geoffrey has encountered no danger, and has given up his schemes with you." "I did not say that he had done that, Locksley," spoke Will in his gruff way, "nor do I see why you should fear danger for him when he is in my company." "I meant not that, Will, believe me," said Robin hastily. "But there are two amongst your band who have little love for my cousin, and are jealous also of you." And he told him of his adventure in the early part of the day when they last had met. Will listened with a frown. "So they winged you, youngling, and yet for all that you won the sheriff's arrow. Give me now some token whereby I may know which of my men are traitors." "I should only know their voices, Will," said Robin regretfully. The outlaw shrugged. "It matters not, after all," he remarked, turning to leave them. "Go your ways, Locksley, and win the purse."
Lucky nothing just followed.
Aw, welcome in, Lucky Nothing. Thank you for the follow. Enjoy the follower emotes. There's a couple of cute ones there. The easiest of which, of course, is when, yeah, hello. That's a nice screen. Also, that is an amazing profile picture, as a side note. That's super cute. I like a little scrunkly dude. Big fan. Okay, where were we? Scrungly, yes. The scrungles. The outlaw shrugged. It matters not, after all, he remarked, turning to leave them. Go your ways, Locksley, and win the purse. Is there no toll? Inquired Robin, smiling again. Am I truly free if Sherwood will? "'Twould seem so, Locksley," said the outlaw briefly. Then, without further ado, he strode away from him. They watched his lithe form disappear. "'Tis sure that our disguise is none too good," sighed Robin, pondering upon the ready way in which the outlaw had recognized him. Soon afterward rain fell, and a heavy storm raged amongst the trees. The two youths crept into the hollow of one of the larger oaks to shelter themselves. Whilst waiting, Whilst waiting there, they heard the noise of an approaching cavalcade. It was a body of archers coming from Lincoln to compete for the purse of gold. They cantered past the tree wherein Robin and Stuteley lay hidden, and took no heed of the drenching rain. All were merry with wine, and very confident that one amongst them would surely win the prize. The only question was, which one? "These Nottingham clods," cried one, scornfully. "I'll dare swear that many of them have already promised the prize to their maids. Nottingham 'gainst Lincoln, 'tis possible that they may stand to us for a round, but after that—" "We will spend the money in Nottingham town," shouted another of the trotting bowmen. "For sure the prince himself could do no handsomer thing. A piece I'll toss to the heralds, and another to you, Stavely, for you are a covetous worm." "Hey, Casman. Welcome in." The rest of his speech was lost, though. The one addressed turned violently upon him, and thrusting at him with his pike, thus tumbling him into the mire. Stuteley laughed outright at this, and for a moment startled the rest of this worshipful company. Robin, rather vexed at his esquire's want of caution, came with him from out of the hollow of the tree. Lincolnshire men halted, and Robin asked for a lift to the field where already the tourney was being commenced. "Are you going to the Sherwood tourney, and with a bow?" asked one of the archers loftily. "What will you shoot there, gypsy boy? There are no targets such as your shafts might reach, but 'tis true that you may learn something of the game if you should go." "I'll lay a crown wager with you, friend," said Stuteley, vexed to hear Robin called gypsy, "that my master's shaft will fly more near the centre of the mark than any one of yours. So now." "A crown piece, gypsy. Why, that means 20 crowns for you to find," laughed another of the men loudly. "20 crowns! Why, he has not 20 pence," said another. "My man has laid the wager, and I will stand to it," said Robin quietly. "Though I do not like such boasting, I promise you 20 crowns to 20 crowns. Who will hold the stakes? Here is my purse in warrant of my words." "Why, master, I am surely the very man to hold your purse," called out the lately fallen champion, readily. "Ask any of them here, and, if they have love of truth in them, they will say that much the miller is a man of men for honesty, sobriety, and the like. 'Tis known throughout Lincoln that never have I given short measure in all my life. Hand me the purse and be easy." "Show me your crown, friend," said Robin, eyeing him. "Now stir up me, but I have given my last piece to a poor beggar whom we did meet in the wood." "Then I will hold my purse myself, Master Much," cried Robin, putting it quickly back into his bosom. But have no fear. If you can beat me, I'll add my crown to the prince's money bag. We will meet you here, friends, he continued, beside this very tree at noon tomorrow if I should win. If not, I'll yield this purse to the miller ere I leave the tourney, and he shall share it round. Is it agreed? I do think that you should pay for your travelling, gypsy, since you are so rich, grunted the first archer. Here's half my saddle. I'll only ask a silver penny for a seat on it. I'll take you for naught, gypsy, shouted Much, who really was very tipsy. You've spoken fair, and I like you. Come, jump up behind me and hold tight. This horse is one of most wayward character. Hurry then, said the leader. Whilst we chatter here, the tourney will be done, and we shall happen on it just as Hubert takes the prize. Forward, friends, quick march. Did my stream die? What happened? Is it broken? Hmm? Wah, 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 wah. Did it die? Oh no! Boop boo doo doo doo. I'm gonna wait. Doo 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 doo. I'm gonna wait. Doo 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 doo. I've noticed that today Twitch has been awful about connectivity. There were no spikes in my bit rate. There was no changes to my signal. Everything was good to go. I think Twitch has got a little bit too much on its plate. He was fighting Master Much. I'm going to go back a couple paragraphs in case I don't know exactly where it died. So here, bear with me. Then I will hold my purse myself, Master Much, cried Robin, putting it quickly back into his bosom. But have no fear. If you can beat me, I'll add my crown to the prince's money bag, and we will meet you here, friends, he continued, beside this very tree at noon tomorrow, if I should win. If not, I'll yield this purse to the miller ere I leave the tourney, and he shall share it round. Is it agreed? I do think that you should pay for your travelling, gypsy, since you are so rich, grunted the first archer. Here's half my saddle. I'll only ask a silver penny for a seat on it. I'll take you for naught, gypsy, shouted Much, who really was very tipsy. You've spoken fair, and I like you. Come, jump up behind me and hold tight. This horse is one of most wayward character. Hurry then, said the leader. Whilst we chatter here, the tourney will be done, and we shall happen on it just as Hubert takes the prize. Forward, friends, quick march. They rattled off at a smart pace, Robin mounted behind the good-natured Much, and Stutely upon the captain's horse. The miller told Robin confidently a full score of times that he, Much was bound to win the archery contest, being admittedly the first bowman in the world. Harkee, gypsy, called he at length over the point of his shoulder to patient Robin behind him. I'll not take your crown, I swear it. I like you, and I would not rob your sweetheart of a penny piece. Buy ribbons for her, then, with the crown I give you. Robin expressed his thanks very cordially. This fellow seemed an honest-hearted rogue, and 'twas mainly to his furious urging of his steed that they arrived in time for the great event. As it was, all the jousting was done, and most of the nobles had already gone away. The sheriff was fussily preparing himself to escort the prince to the castle when the horns blew, announcing the arrival of the Lincolnshire bowmen. They had pushed their way clumsily through the array of tents, and now blundered into the lists through the gate. Robin was glad indeed of his stained face and semi-disguise, not being over-proud of his companions. He gave Will Stutely a signal to detach himself from them and come to his side. The two youths had hastened to the archer's stand. There had been 3 deaths already as a result of the joustings, and 6 others were seriously injured. Yet the prince looked far from being satisfied, and his glance strayed forever to the gate. When the Lincoln men had come noisily trooping in, his face had lit up, and his hand had made a half movement to find the jeweled hilt of his sword. Master Carfax, too, had started to his feet in evident concern. When the heralds announced these newcomers, visible disappointment showed on the faces of the prince and his followers. Clearly, they were eagerly expecting the appearance of other folk, but quickly recovering himself, John refound all the old elegance of his manners. Oh, spam detected. Siri bots banned someone. What was the message? Bear with me. I'm kind of curious what that was. Bam, 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 da, da. When up, 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 da, 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 dee, 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 dee. What was the message? I don't know. It doesn't show me. SiriBot is doing things. Okay. Well, all right, I'll write that down. Who is this? Well, the name like childish guy. 757. It's a spam bot viewer message. I'm watching for more. Siri got it before I could. Oh, well, still, it's good to have a mod here. Thank you. When the heralds announced these newcomers, visible disappointment showed on the faces of the prince and his followers. Clearly, they were eagerly expecting the appearance of other folk. But quickly, recovering himself, John refound the old elegance of his manners. He courteously acknowledged the rough greeting of the archers and sat back smilingly in his box. Master Monsieur gave the signal for the archery contest to be begun. Oh, that reads so weird. Gave the signal for the archery contest to be begun. Literally making my English brain squish. And Robin soon saw the and Robin soon saw that the archers against him were men very different from those who had been at Nottingham Fair. When it came to the turn of the prince's own bowman, Hubert of Normandy, a man slim, conceited, and overdressed, but nevertheless a very splendid archer. The first shaft flew so cleanly and so swift that it pierced the very middle of the target and stuck out on the other side full half its length. Robin had to shoot immediately after him, and waited a few moments whilst the markers were tugging at the Norman's arrow. A sudden inspiration flashed across the lad's mind, and, advancing a step, he bade them desist. They wonderingly fell back, leaving Hubert's arrow fixed spitefully in the target. One of the heralds cried out that this archer had not yet given in his name, but even as he spoke, Robin's arrow flew hissing from his bow. A silence fell upon the onlookers, and even the smiling prince leaned forward in his box. Then a great shout went up of amazement and incredulity. Went up of amazement and incredulity. The markers and heralds thronged about the target and hid it from the general view until they were impatiently pulled away by some of the prince's bodyguard. A marvel was seen then by all eyes. Robin's arrow, standing stiffly out from the center of the target with Hubert's wand split down on either side of it, flush to the very face of the mark. Robin himself could scarcely credit his own success. He had done the thing before with Warrenton once out of a dozen times, and he had essayed it now more out of bravado than aught else. "'Twas a feat worthy of Hubert himself," said the sheriff, bombastically to the prince. He had not recognized Robin. I have seen Hubert perform just such a trick on many occasions, sir, said Carfax. This fellow has done no uncommon thing, believe me. He went on, and after all, he has not bettered Hubert's shot. That is true, said the prince, as if thoughtfully. His face showed smiling again. Let the contest go on, and Hubert shall shoot again with this young trickster. The heralds say that he has not given in his name, sire, said one of the courtiers. If that is so, his shooting is of no avail, be it never so good, cried Carfax triumphantly. Tell them that the archer is disqualified by my lord, he continued, addressing the sheriff, and bid them discover who he may be. Carfax turned again to the prince, and began a whispered conversation with him. The prince listened, nodding his head in approval. Well, monsieur, what do they say? He asked the sheriff languidly as the other returned. It seems, sire, that the archer is one who came in with a company of Lincoln bowmen. No one knows him hereabout. I have said that he is disqualified, and now the others will shoot again. But Hubert has now the purse for sure. In sooth, I do think so, answered the prince, laughing rather conceitedly. But, monsieur, bid this lad to me forthwith. I would speak with him. The sheriff went about the task, but Robin had disappeared, for suddenly, amidst the throng, his eyes had encountered those strange, grey-blue ones of Mistress Fitzwalter. She was sitting alone in a little box near by the targets. Robin had walked down the lists to see for himself that his shaft had split the Normans fairly, and in turning away to find Stuteley, he had become aware of her shrewd, piercing gaze. She allowed her eyes to rest fully on young Fitzooth's ardent glance for the briefest moment. Then she looked away unconcernedly. But Robin, venturing all, drew nigh. He came to the edge of her box and began to speak. He had gone so far as, "Give you good morrow, lady," when his eyes perceived the sheriff's little golden arrow fastened her cloak. His mouth became dry at that, and his words went back in his throat. The girl, aware of his confusion, brought her gaze back upon him. She smiled. Let's look at that picture. That's the wrong one. There it is. So here he is. Okay, so seeing this rendition of him, because there have been no other paintings where you actually saw him playing, I would say he's a teenage boy here, like 16, 17-ish. So older than my original estimate of like 9 or 10, which was considerably younger. Older than my secondary estimate of like 13 or so. And she is 16 going on 17. So I'm assuming he's of a similar age to her. And they're making goo-goo eyes at each other. All right. Let's see. Let's look at the next one. But yeah, I really like the amount of detail. Robin meets Maid Marian, but Robin, venturing all, drew nigh. He came to the edge of her box and began to speak. Look at the detail, like the way the tapestry hangs and the woodwork and all of the fabric. Mwah! She's beauty. She is grace. All right. "It is indeed my young champion?" asked she, rather doubtfully at first, in her low, soft tones. "It is you who have beaten the prince's best archer, Robin o' the Hood." Her eyes were wells of innocent fun. The way in which she lingered over the last syllables brought Robin still deeper into the deep waters. "It is your servant, madame," was all that he could find to say. "You see, then, that I wear your gift, Robin," she said, trying to make him at ease. "I have not forgotten." "Nor I. I shall never forget," cried he impulsively. "Your eyes are always in my memory. They are beautiful as stars," said he fervently. "Oh, a gallant Locksley! But there, take my colors, since you will be my knight." She untied a ribbon from her hair, and gave it into his outstretched palm. "And now, farewell. Take the prince's prize, and spend the pennies worthily. Buy your sweetheart some ribbons, but keep that which I have given you." She tossed her curls again as she added the last word. Robin was beginning a vehement protestation. protestation that he had no sweetheart, when Stuteley's voice broke in upon him. Master, they have disqualified you and given the prize to Hubert. 'Tis a vile injustice, and I have raised my voice furiously. So alas has Master Much the miller. He is a very worthy gentleman. What do you say? Asked Mistress Fitzwalter in amazement. It is even so, lady, that my lord the sheriff has ruled my master out of the court. For the reason that he did not give in his name before drawing his bow, cried Stuteley. A wicked conspiracy it is, and a monstrous unjust. 'Tis thus that these prizes are given, the games arranged beforehand. Ah, but I know how these Nottingham folk do plot. Thrice now have I found them false and treacherous. When Stuteley had begun, there were many who were ready to side with him, but his unlucky conclusion turned those possible friends into enemies. Even Mistress Fitzwalter drew back for an instant. Be silent, Will, said Robin, vexed at once. It is enough to be juggled out of this prize without your making it worse. I'll go claim it from Monsieur, and he shall argue it with me. The prince is asking for you, friend, said Carfax suddenly appearing. He touched Robin on the shoulder. As he turned to depart, his gimlet eyes saw how the girl shrank away from them into her box. He looked swiftly at her, then at Robin again. His Highness graciously condescended to inquire your name and rank. He paused. Said he, pausing. Will he give the purse to me, then? Asked Robin, surprised. Nay, that has already been won by Master Hubert, answered Carfax, as if amused at the question. You cannot win a prize every day, Master Locksley. He spoke at a shrewd guess, and saw that his shaft had hit the mark. Mistress Fitzwalter's interest in Robin had given him the clue. I'll not go to the prince, said Robin wrathfully. Tell him, Master Fetch and Take, that I have won this prize in all fairness, and I will shoot with Hubert again if he needs another beating. You'll cool your heels in the stocks, Locksley, said Carfax viciously. So much is evident. The sheriff has a quarrel with you already, and 'tis well that you are here to answer Master Ford's complaint. The prince will send for you in style, since you will not go kindly to him. Bide but a few minutes, I'll not keep you waiting. He strode off in heat, followed by Stuteley's scornful gibings. Robin became aware that the people were eyeing them both with none too friendly glances. He felt that he and Will Stuteley were in difficult position. Escape seemed to be out of the question. Jump over the ledge of my box, Robin, whispered a sudden small voice, and so make your way through the door at the back of it. Hasten. Gratefully, Robin did as she bade him, and Stuteley, without waiting for invitation, followed. Mistress Fitzwalter instantly opened the door for them. Hurry, I pray you, she cried. I see them coming for you both. The prince has sent his pikemen. Robin pushed Will out before him, and turning, caught her little hand in his. Thanks, thanks, he muttered hurriedly, and strove to kiss her fingers. Laughing and blushing, she snatched them away. Go, she cried in agitated voice, and stay not until you reach Locksley. We may meet again to talk of thanks, she added, seeing that he still hesitated. Give me at least your name, panted poor Robin at the door, and not that I shall ever forget you. I am called Marian, answered she, closing the door ruthlessly upon him. Marian Fitzwalter. Go now, I implore you, and may good fortune be with you always. I hate running an ad, and we're almost done. We're at 13 seconds. So let's go raid somebody so you guys don't have to deal with an ad if we can. Similar following, blah blah blah. No. Go, Wrath, go. I think the ad's gonna go. Yeah. We'll try. We'll try. All right, let's go raid Wrath. Neff de Wrath, the lore keeper, another librarian. Which, Asim, if you're still here, I highly recommend you check them out.